Timestamps for this very long episode can be found in the description. Hello everybody, Road Warrior 627 here, and welcome back to another episode of One Turn Route. For the horses, for the fans, and this is a special episode of One Turn Route. It is the 10th episode. As you can tell, 10 episodes in a little less than 2 years is not that extraordinary, but we did get here, and it's been something that I've enjoyed doing very much. And this is the first episode of the show that is also debuting on Spotify, so that's fantastic. We also have uploaded the other episodes, the first 9 episodes, retroactively. They'll all have this release date of February 1st. So you'll have the first 10, and then hopefully we'll do plenty more. So I wanted to do something special for the 10th episode, and I didn't really have anything in mind that I wanted to talk about because I vented all my frustrations already. So I was thinking, could I get somebody special for an interview? But I've kind of interviewed everybody I wanted to already. So I'm thinking, well, we've got a big year ahead in racing, and it could be a consequential year depending on what happens. So I thought, well, let's say we get some of the people that I've interviewed in the past, get them back and see what they think about this upcoming year. Because I have my own thoughts and I'm kind of tired of thinking about my own thoughts. So I want to hear some other people's ideas. The 5 guests on this episode include, in order, Jack Sargent from Racing Rundown, Jalen Santos, Dennis Trusty, Nathan Klein, otherwise known as Sketchy the Horse Guy, and my old pal Sammy Roseman, who's joined me for so many YouTube videos in the past. So we've got those 5, and we've got timestamps for all of them in the description, so you guys can skip around as you want. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, there'll be timestamps, or at least time markings in both. The first one is going to be who was also the first interview on One Turn Route, and that, of course, is Jack Sargent, who does his own very awesome show, Racing Rundown, with his and now my friend Eric DeCoster. Jack, welcome back. This feels like the 50th time you've been on one of my YouTube shows, and now you've made it to my land of Spotify too. So welcome.
Yeah, I really should have been keeping the official tracker for how many times I've been on. I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't really know that I have the desire to go back and dig through and count exactly how many times I've been on, but you're probably accurate around that range.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but that's okay. And but you've made my shows a lot better, so it's always good to have you around. And of course, the theme of this episode is, as I said, 2023 racing expectations. So here's how this is going to work. I was thinking about doing an article on the website, the new website about this, which is also called One Turn Route. But did I really want to write? And did I want to say my own stuff? No, I want to get other people's thoughts, and I'm not going to make them write stuff. So I'd rather have them just say stuff. So I'm going to kind of leave this up to all of you. And of course, Jack, you're first. So, I mean, I have questions here if you want to be asked them. But otherwise, I'll just let you fly. What are you excited for in this new racing year?
And there's a lot of things I think to be excited for going into the year. Obviously, it's a fresh start with everything. So we have the whole song and dance every year, new group of 3-year-olds, new Kentucky Derby trail things. The trail beginning this weekend. We have up through the middle of March, a Kentucky Derby points, or if not points, definitely a prep race every weekend from January 21st all the way through to March 18th, or the week before March 18th. So that stretch, there's something every single week. So obviously a very exciting very exciting to begin a 3-year-old crop. There's still a lot of uncertainties about this group. I don't know how overly talented they are. Some people that I've talked to think that this is a very talented group of 3-year-olds. I know that I'm sort of in the middle. Eric's a little bit, you mentioned Eric earlier. Eric's a little bit less on these colts than I am. But the point is every single Kentucky Derby trail is always fun because you're beginning to learn who these horses are, who are going to be the ones that you're going to have to keep your eyes on over the course of the remainder of the spring into the summer. And with there being so many horses that we haven't seen in stakes races yet, and some horses that are coming back from last year, obviously, but right now, a lot of the horses that I would say are on the higher end of the Kentucky Derby Trail, we haven't really seen them in stakes races before. So that's obviously something that's very exciting about every year. And you can pretty much say the same thing about the fillies and the Oaks, except for even with them, it's a little bit more of an apparent thing because it doesn't really look like the 2-year-olds have all that much talent overall. So you're looking at even more of a case with the 3-year-old fillies where these February, we're going into February soon. These races are going to tell us who the horses to follow on the Kentucky Oaks Trail are. And potentially, I mean, I don't know. I think at this point, we've probably seen both the Oaks and the Derby winner run in a horse race, but I would be very unconfident to say that we've seen the Oaks winner win a stakes race or maybe even at this point run in a stakes race. So that's obviously the first thing that you would have about that. In a couple of weeks where the Pegasus World Cup is running, and while that is, the Pegasus World Cup is really kind of turned into a very tacky race with how much money is slapped onto it and the overall quality of competition that shows up there. I mean, those still are going to be, especially the Pegasus Turf, those are still going to be bettable races and definitely worth watching in terms of just having, even if they're not the best horses. I said this to my friend Matt, who has also been on Racing Run on Points yesterday. If the field that we were getting for the Pegasus World Cup was for a Dawn handicap, which this pretty much is how I'm looking at this year's Pegasus World Cup, this is the Dawn handicap. If that was the group you were getting for a Dawn handicap, it would be a very good race. So I'm choosing to look at it, the positive aspect with that. So, I mean, overall, the early parts of the year, that's where I would say right now, I'll go back to you if you want to talk about anything that further on in the year, but at least right now at this point, those are certainly the things that I'm most looking forward to, at least in the contemporary aspect of time.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and a lot of those things are much more immediate, including the Kentucky Derby series races. I don't like to necessarily call them preps yet because I feel like a lot of the horses that run in these races in January often don't show up in the Derby. Maybe like once you get to the Gotham and like even the Withers sometimes is not really even being a Derby prep race anymore. And of course, I'm speaking from a New York bias. But yeah, of course, I know you're very excited, as am I, of course, about Belmont in the springtime and the early summertime. So I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about that and maybe reflect on what you did on Belmont Stakes weekend last year, and also sort of talk about your opinions on what happened with the just released Belmont Park Spring Summer Stakes schedule. I know
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I didn't bring that up before we started recording, but I know it's something we've talked about in private recently.
So I'd say right now, I would say the decision is probably, my feeling is mixed bag to lean positive on the races. So the purse cuts, I've never really said purse cuts, they really, I'm usually indifferent on them because I'm not the person who's getting whatever the money for a race. As far as I'm concerned, as long as it's enough money to get the level and caliber of horses that you need to have for the kind of race you're running, say you're running a super established, very prestigious grade one, just make sure it's enough money to get all the top horses in whatever division that race is to show up there. And, that trickles down to same thing with grade twos and grade threes and all that fun stuff. So, but after listening to Eric talk about this on Racing Rundown, I think that in some cases where they cut stuff, and this is kind of pulling off stuff that he said, but I think in some places where they cut races, it made a lot of sense. So you look at the Belmont Derby and the Belmont Oaks. Those races both got significant purse cuts, $250,000 and $200,000 for the Derby and Oaks, respectively. And those races are still very high dollar amount races, and it's not something where you look at that and say, okay, it's only $750. We're not going to get the level of horses that we were getting in past years. No, we're still going to get those horses, and the good thing about that is you can still get the level of horses that you're going to get. Which, I mean, we weren't getting top level European horses. We were getting Charlie Appleby's fourth string on talent 3-year-old and his I mean, I don't even know what you classify Nation's Pride in terms of the middle distance type, but definitely not one of the best. In terms of Aiden O'Brien, Stone Age at best is his second best middle distance horse. So you're getting the B tier horses from Europe, and when you can still get those horses, but be able to spare 250,000 for other lesser races, I think that overall serves as a general positive with that aspect. So I think that after hearing what Eric talked about this, and there were other races, this was the case, but I'm just using those because those were the two most notable races that got the cut for them. I think that overall it's a general positive because they redistributed the money around and put it towards other grade 3 races. The Manila, the 3-year-old mile race got bumped up a little bit in terms of purse, and then obviously you had other listed and grade 3 races get some raisings as well, and I'm not going to go through all of those. In terms of the Acorn and the Mongoose, I like what they tried to do, and once again, this is something that my opinion kind of changed when we talked about it on Racing Rundown, and Eric brought up a different viewpoint that I had. I still wish that they would have streamlined the Acorn. Now, the one thing I will say, the Acorn needed to be cut from, or the Acorn needed to be changed, because let's look at the way that the schedule has been in the last few years. You have 2 races run within 3 weeks of each other that are essentially, for all intent and purposes, the same type of race. The Acorn's a 1-turn mile. The Mother Goose was a mile and a 16th. And you could not have 2 races practically the same kind run that close to each other. You were always going to leech horses off of those 2 races. So I like what they tried to do, but what I would have preferred to see NYRA do is cut the Acorn to a pure sprint, just make that the sprint race, the race that you run in before the test, and then take the Mother Goose and position that as the next race to come from the Oaks. Now, what they're probably trying to do with the Acorn is make it so that the Acorn is the race where you get the Oaks winner, and that would make sense because right now the Mother Goose is a grade 2, and even if you bumped up the purse, it's still a grade 2 race. And you're more likely to get the Oaks winner with a mile and a 16th grade 1 than you are with a 1-turn mile grade 1. But you're still probably more likely to do that, get the Oaks winner with a grade 1 than you are with a grade 2. And even though if the Mother Goose was put in that position, it probably would work back up to the grade 1. But instant gratification is kind of what I see with this move. And if that's what they're trying to do, if they're trying to make it so that they'll consistently get the Oaks winner, then okay, I'm fine with it. I would have preferred you go a different way because I think that the Mother Goose deserves the opportunity to at least be given the chance to be the race that it once was. But it just seems like that they are trying to do what's best to streamline their races, which ultimately, if we get like I said, if we get the Oaks winner consistently every year in the Acorn to run on the Belmont Stakes weekend, I think that's a net positive. As for, moving the Mother Goose back up to a mile and an 1/8, that makes a lot of sense. Moving it to Aqueduct in the fall, though, I mean, that's going to kill the race. It's going to make it so that the Mother Goose, which is now grade 2, is going to get very minimal talent level fields. Probably in a few years, you'll see that race downgraded to a grade 3, and it'll probably linger around grade 3 levels for the foreseeable future once it's downgraded from a grade 2, which is unfortunate for a race like that. But, that's pretty much what happens with races to Aqueduct in the winter. That's kind of the next step above just cutting the race off the calendar entirely. So, at least they're keeping the race around and not saying, okay, we're just not going to run this race anymore. But again, I see the overall positives with it. And once again, Eric kind of convinced me a little bit more because if we had done this yesterday, I would have been a lot more against the Acorn move. But I see some of the positives in the decision. But like I said, I still would have preferred them to go the other way, but they chose not to. And ultimately, I think that once again, it boils down to if you get the Oaks winner consistently to run on this Belmont Stakes weekend, which the most important thing is to get the most level of talent to run on this festival weekend, then okay, if that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. There's a lot of things that we may not like in horse racing that we're going to have to accept in the future. And this is one of those things that it's not my favorite thing. I would much prefer to see the Mother Goose be a top level 3-year-old filly race like it once was, but unfortunately it doesn't look like that it's going to be the case with that. As for the schedule aspect, objectively, I'm someone who really likes big single cards. So I was a little bit disappointed that the races on the calendar on the Belmont Stakes Festival got shifted around a little bit. But objectively, the Friday card is now a much better card. And not that it was a bad card, but you had 3 grade ones to that. The New York got bumped up to grade 1 last year. So that obviously makes that race an incredibly fun race. And then you add the Just a Game and the Acorn. And like we said, if the aim is to get the Oaks winner, you get the Oaks winner to show up the day before the Belmont. That makes a whole lot of sense in that aspect. So objectively better card. And then I thought it was very interesting that they moved the poker to Belmont Stakes Day, a race that kind of, got relegated to after the Belmont. And when you had the female equivalent run on the Belmont Stakes card, it was always a little bit odd, that schedule placing. It doesn't really change a whole lot of things, but, I think that that's generally going to do a good thing for the poker. Maybe can draw better fields for that race. I would be a little bit concerned about it clashing a little bit with the Manhattan, but I probably don't think it will, because you really are not going to see too many of the big miler types. Maybe you lose a couple of the mile and an eighth type horses that would have run in the Fort Marcy show up in that, but it was only a week after anyway. So that I think that that's a minimal thing to be concerned about there. Overall, definitely the schedule aspect, my personal feelings aside, objectively a great decision by the New York Racing Association on that front.
I thought it was okay. I have stronger thoughts about moving the Mother Goose. I really liked your idea, Jack. I thought it was a perfect idea. Shorten the Acorn, but keep the Mother Goose during the spring summer. I think it's possible you could have made it its own kind of standalone event, because from Belmont Stakes Day up until Stars and Stripes Day, there really is no big weekend anymore. I mean, the poker used to be the Father's Day feature, and the Mother Goose used to be the one right after that. It was the feature of that weekend, and now both of those are gone. I don't. I'm not in love with that. I do like that the poker might get better fields. Absolutely, running on Belmont Stakes Day, and it is absolutely the male equivalent of the Just Game, but it just doesn't draw as good fields for whatever reason it may be. Of course, American male turf horses not being good at the moment largely is a factor in that. But overall, I think it's okay. I'm certainly much more compelled to go out on Friday now on Belmont Stakes weekend. You can almost guarantee that I will be there that day, almost certainly, and maybe I'll try to go all 3 days. Last time I did that is kind of hard, but maybe I'll try. I'm at least going to go Friday and Saturday for sure. Now, no doubt about that. So, of course, I mean, there's no real point in getting further in the year than that, because so much, I mean, once you get past June, it really depends on what has already happened. So I guess I'll cut things off with that there. Let's go into the more specific things. Which horses are you excited to see back this year, Jack?
So in terms of stuff stateside, I'm very excited to see horses that we got to see, or that we have connections that are specifically bringing them back for the purpose of running them next year. Biggest one in that category would be Goodnight Olive. The connection specifically said it's good for racing for her to come back, but not just Goodnight Olive. You have Cody's Wish, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner coming back, Elite Power, Breeders' Cup Sprint winner. So I believe the plan's still for him to come back. So those 3 horses specifically, I'm glad that we're going to get to see more of them. As putting aside my personal feelings for the individuals connected to him, it's nice to see a top-level 3-year-old like Taba continue to be around. And, again, personal feelings aside for the folks who are connected with him, it will at least be something to be a positive that we'll get to see a top talent in 2022. And then, just some of the lesser horses that will be coming back next year. I'm just excited to see who's going to step up from those middle level horses to take over openings in certain divisions. And a lot of this can be funneled into the turf races, which they're all middle level horses, long turf races here. They're all middle level horses, but who's going to be the horse that's going to win the major races in that division this year? Because Will it be 9-year-old or 1,000-year-old channel maker, or is it going to be someone else? So really, I mean, it's just that whole aspect, but definitely to see some of the big horses that are important for Racing Rundown, and most notably Warlike Goddess, is probably one of the best things that we're going to get to see back this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for the return of the Queen, and hopefully this time she will get her rightful crown that she should have gotten twice already. But we've already talked about that at length on this channel and on your show. You guys have as well. So what about the international horses, Jack? I know you love your English racing and just overseas stuff in general. What about over there?
Yeah, so obviously the Epsom Derby winner last year, Desert Crown, we didn't see any of him after the Epsom Derby. He's been a very difficult horse for Sir Michael Stout to keep healthy, so he'll be back. The plan is for him to run at Royal Ascot, and I would imagine that he'll go from there to run in the King George. Obviously, with the focus of running in the Arc, it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility for him to come over and run in the United States. Sir Michael Stout certainly is not someone against bringing a horse across the ocean to run them in the Breeders' Cup. But just whatever we get to see from him, I thought that he was the best 3-year-old on talent in Europe, and getting to see more of him will be great. I'm also really excited for the classics this year, and specifically to see Augusta Rodin, who is the early favorite right now in all the early markets for the Derby, and that's Aiden O'Brien. Aiden O'Brien called him the best horse that he's had in his the best horse that he's had in his barn for quite a long time, and that's obviously something that's really tongue-in-cheek thing that Aiden O'Brien says all the time, but it makes a lot of sense with this horse because this isn't your garden variety. Aiden O'Brien says this is the most exciting prospect that we've had. This horse is actually legitimate. He's a half to, or he's a half to 2018 Guineas winner who was thought of as a potential dual classic / triple crown winner in Saxon Warrior, who he's a half but bred on the same cross. So he's by the late great Japanese sire Deep Impact out of Galileo Mare. In this case, he's out of Rhododendron, who was the horse who was actually favored in the Oaks that Enable won way back in 2017, but very well bred there. And the thing that's really exciting about Augusta Rodin is he's already a Group 1 winner. He won the Verdum Futurity Trophy at Doncaster, which is the biggest race over there for horses to get ready for the classics. You can run through that race and see so many classic winners that have come out of that. It's produced many Derby winners, specifically for Aiden O'Brien, but also for other folks. And just classic winners in general. And the other thing about Augusta Rodin is I already laid out he's got the pedigree to go the mile and a half distance of the Derby, being by Deep Impact out of the Galileo Mare Rhododendron. But he's got the turn of foot to do it over a mile. And the really exciting thing about him is when he won the Verdum Futurity, that was over heavy going. And Aiden O'Brien says that this horse does better over the firmer stuff. And he won in a very convincing 3.5 length victory in that Verdum Futurity. And if that was over a surface that, according to Aiden O'Brien, isn't his surface, imagine what he's going to do when he gets on a surface that is his surface. So we won't see him again until the Guineas, but I'm very excited to see him come the Guineas time. And I really think that this is a horse that can win the dual classics, which we haven't seen one in 11 years, and we've only seen 3 since 1970. So if he did that, that would be fantastic.
Well, this sounds like a very exciting year for you, Jack, and I have to say I agree with you on the American horses as well. Of course, the Queen Warlike Goddess, at least the Turf Queen. We all know who the Dirt Queen of yours is, who is now going off to be a mama. The other two are really Bill Mott horses as well. I'm very interested to see what Cody's Wish does and what Elite Power does. Not that just because they're Breeders' Cup winners, which I don't really like the Breeders' Cup, but just because I like them as horses. And I feel like they both do have promising futures in, let's face it, divisions. The older horse, especially the dirt mile kind of division for Cody's Wish. He's not a sprinter as much as other people have made him really out to be a sprinter. He's not. Because there's not really many horses there, and then the sprint division, there's really not much going on. You would think that Elite Power would kind of take over the reins there for Jackie's Warrior as the classiest sprinter around, especially since, don't get mad, Jack, we know what is going on with Jack Christopher. So, yeah, not good, but at least a promising future for those Bill Mott horses.
I'm surprised you didn't mention your guy Casa Creed because he's also going to be coming back for a 2023 campaign.
Oh, I forgot about Casa Creed. Yes, Casa Creed, of course. So that's 4 Bill Mott horses. Um, and Bill Mott's not my favorite trainer, but he almost certainly is the trainer I have the most respect for. He's in my
The thing that I really like about Bill Mott is he runs his horses. Like last year, you look at all his best horses. He ran War Like Goddess. He ran Olympiad. He ran Casa Creed. He runs his horses. That's the thing that is great about Bill Mott is when he has the horses, he runs them. And he ran, Elite Power took him a while to get up to stakes races, but he runs his horses. He'll run Elite Power. He'll run him at Churchill. He'll run him in the True North. He'll run him in the 2 races at Saratoga. Maybe actually not because of what's his name? Why am I blank? Cody's Wish. But the point is, he'll run his horses, and that's the great thing about Bill Mott.
Yeah, I have so much respect for him, and he is probably my 3rd favorite trainer. So he's not like he's not one of my favorite trainers. He's awesome. It just happens to me that I'm such a fan of him, and I'm such a fan of those 4 horses. Those are probably the 4 I'm most excited to see back of just about anybody. Of course, Casa Creed, last year's Jaipur, fantastic. 2nd Jaipur in a row. Hopefully we can get a 3rd one this year. That would be really, really funny if that happened.
Maybe this time I'll actually have him.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how strong that race is actually going to come up? We have no idea. That's so far away. But yeah, it just gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling when these horses that we love come back and run more. And I guess if you want to add a 5th one to the Bill Mott train, would be Channel Maker. I think he should be retired out on a farm having fun doing whatever he wants. But it is nice to see him. And it's a shame to me that they took away the Grand Couturier Stakes because I feel like that's one of the last races he could actually still win.
Yeah, but at the same time, we'll get to see something. I mean, he won a couple of races outside of the Grand, or he won the Sycamore at Keeneland, so or not the Sycamore, whatever the April 1.5-mile race at Keeneland is. Actually, that's the Elkhorn. But he won something else besides the Grand Couturier, so maybe we'll see something. But just overall, just get moral of the story. We talked about this earlier, and I forgot to throw this in. The moral of the story: give more horses to Bill Mott because Bill Mott will run them. Bill Mott won't run them 3 times, try to spot them perfectly. He'll just run them, and we need more people that do that.
I mean, this is a guy who I believe got a late to run 4th in the Breeders' Cup Classic as well. I know she was a long way back, but she still ran 4th in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's a pretty good accomplishment. So yeah, he always tries. He won't duck away from anything, and that's a great thing to see. And I think because of the mistreatment of the voters, I think you're going to see him run War Like Goddess against the males a lot this year, and I think he needs to because she can beat them. She can absolutely beat them.
At this point, there's no reason to. I mean, aside from just doing the same thing again, but why would you be just playing hypothetical stuff here? Why would you bring her back as a 6-year-old to do what you've done 2 years in a row already? You've got the Man of War, you've got the Manhattan, you've got the Sword Dancer, you've got the Turf Classic. Those are 4 grade ones. She's probably not going to run in all of them, but you can run her in the Man of War, you can run her in the New York, you can run her in the Flower Bowl, and then you can run her in the Turf Classic. And it's a very good core 4-race campaign for her to run in New York, which, should she run the table in those races, that probably gives her enough to finally win an Eclipse Award.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because if she doesn't win the turf, the Filly and Mare turf, which I believe this year will be back out to the 1 3/8, which I still don't think.
Yes, it'll be back out to the mile. It'll be back out to the 1 3/8.
Still don't think that's what she wants. I think she wants 1.5 miles, but that's all right. It's better than she would have never had a chance in the 1 3/16 this year at all.
No. And we have to be fair to her. She did run her race in the turf.
She did, and she has no obligation to beat Rebels Romance or even to beat Stone Age, who improved a lot since he ran at Belmont in the early summer. He was a much improved horse by then. So she really had no reason to need to beat those horses. She beat all the Americans by city blocks, and she also beat Nation's Pride, Mishriff, and Broom. How good Mishriff and Broom still were questionable, but she still beat them, which is interesting.
But that's more of the reason that that gets more into the example of why she needs to run in a race like the Man of War, why she needs to run in the Turf Classic again, because she beat the best American males in the Classic by streets and blocks, as you say, and who is going to be stepping up that is on her talent level that she's either already beat all them or they're not that much, they're not really good. Like any 3-year old that's going to step up is not of the talent level that Warlike Goddess is. So, like I said, that 4-race campaign that I laid out, and a mile and a quarter is probably a little bit too short for her, but you run her in the Man of War, you run her in the New York, you run her in the Flower, I mean, you run her in the Glens Falls between that, but you go the Man of War, ideal. This is my ideal campaign. Since we're going into Warlike Goddess stand mode right now, I'll lay out my ideal campaign for her. I don't know that she's going to do this, but I'd like to see her prep at Gulfstream, and then from there go from Gulfstream to the Man of War, then from the Man of War to the New York, the Glens Falls, the Flower Bowl, and then from there the Turf Classic, and then you make your decision on which Breeders' Cup race you run her. What the talent is. Like, if you have an example where a Desert Crown's coming over, which I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if you have a situation where a Desert Crown comes over, yeah, I probably don't run her in the turf. Probably run her in the Filly and Mare Turf, get her chance to win a Breeders' Cup, have the Eclipse Award voters finally shut up and give her award, and then, maybe she's got, at that rate, maybe she'll actually get a serious look at the Hall of Fame, where she probably should, but with the record that she has now, might not get it. But if she has this campaign and she runs the table in the races that I mentioned, then you're obviously talking about Eclipse Award talk with her. But that's one of the better campaigns that we've seen from a turf mare in quite a long time. Should she run the table in all those races? And I don't think it's crazy to expect her to run in those races.
Oh, it's not crazy at all. And yes, I agree. This has become the Warlike Goddess fan club, and you know what? That's okay because it's hey, at the end of the day, it's our show. We can do whatever we want with it. So we're having a good time here, but we will need to move on. God bless the Queen, and we hope she has another great year. But moving
God
on.
save the Queen too. God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. All right, Jack. So moving on. What do you think we need in terms of reform in this game? Of course, Eric had an article that came out, I guess maybe about a month ago, talking about Heiza and maybe not saying that it's perfect, but we need some kind of national organization to manage all the crooked things that are going on in the sport. I have my very strong opinions about it, and I'm sure you do. So, what are your opinions about reform that this game needs at a national level?
So I've someone who's been a very big proponent of Heiza the entire time. So I mean, not to give you a short answer, I think what we need in racing is for the jurisdictions and the opponents of the folks who are trying to fight Heiza to basically, no pun intended, get off their high horse and get in line with that. It's not perfect, but at some point we're going to need to get to that. And Heiza is, again, Heiza's not perfect, and it's going to bring on things that we may not like, but I'd rather know that there's things that aren't perfect about Heiza and things that I'm not 100% on board with, but I know are overall for the better of racing. I'd rather that than any other aspect of major change come in, specifically any change forced by outside of racing entities, be that any kind of government or things like that. So definitely more of Heiza, and just the not as much more of Heiza, just getting the opposition out there to not be so stringent against it. So, I mean, really, that's what the extent that I think that we need right now in racing, because from there, once we get that in place, then we can figure out, okay, what do we need to do next? But that's the first step. So I think mainly right now is we need to complete the first step, and then from there we will figure out what we need to fix from there.
Yeah, I mostly like the legislation myself. The one problem I have is the six stick rule. I think that's ridiculous. Punishing people for trying to win races is not a good thing. And I've hit myself with one of those crops. They don't really hurt. So, I mean, I know that horses still put their tails up occasionally. Very few, but some of them do. Well, if a horse does that, then the trainer should notice and know not to use the whip next time. Some horses really respond to the whip well. I mean, would American Pharoah have won his Kentucky Derby without getting hit as many times as he did? We don't know. But the point is, it seems kind of bad to punish people who are trying to win. And the other part I'd like to see added to HISA is penalties for jockeys who aren't trying for placings. And I don't mean winning, because usually when people are in contention to win, they always try to win. But second, third, and fourth, as long as you have people that are playing exactas, triples, and supers, and even some places go to five, you need to have some measure in there to guarantee that a proper effort is given, unless there is something wrong with the horse in the jockey's mind. As if that's not happening, I mean, you're going to say that subjecting a horse to an extra 6 or 7 seconds of urging inside the 16th pole is going to ruin them? Very, very few. And if you don't protect the bettors, you don't protect the sport, because without the bettors, there is no sport. That's my opinion on it. When the other people come on, I'm not going to repeat that, but it's something that we have seen. I've seen so many times just in the first 19 days of 2023 when we're recording this. The top level elite jockeys just totally giving up before the finish line. And I'm not even going to name names, because all you got to do is go on Twitter if you want to find it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move on to better things now. Last year, as you said on your show, was also a mixed bag for you in terms of gambling. And I'd like to know where you feel that you did well and you want to keep up your success, and how you'd like to improve at the tracks that you didn't succeed at, and how you might go about that.
So overall, I mean, I'll start this off by talking about what my best track was. It was a super small sample size, but my best track last year was Tampa Bay Downs. I had some very good priced winners from there. My win percentage at the track was uncharacteristically high. Again, very small sample size, because we only did, I think, 10 or 12 races from Tampa. But so I would obviously like to keep my success at Tampa going into this next year. A track that I definitely need to improve at is the Fairgrounds. And Gulfstream was my nemesis for the first 3 months of last year. To this point, since February, I've not had a horse finish finish off the board. Excuse me, I've had one horse finish off the board since April of 2020 at Gulfstream. So I've really, I would say continue to or stay the course at Gulfstream. I don't need to say do better, because I have been doing better, but definitely stay the course at Gulfstream. And then overall, this is one thing that I noticed. I don't want to be picking against horses just for the sake of picking against them, because and also not price hunting just for the sake of price hunting, because that it is something that can get very dangerous to do at times in racing. So, but also at the same time, balance when it makes sense to take the shot. Take the shot. Don't get, because there were several races last year where I got gun shy. Didn't pick a horse because I wasn't I thought they had a chance to win, but I wasn't as confident as I maybe should have been, and I missed out on an opportunity to have a couple of very nice winners if I had done that. My two biggest ones were both in straight turf sprints overseas. One of them was in Dubai with a case of you, and the other one was at Newmarket with alcohol free in July. So those races, among others, getting gun shy, not picking the right horse there. But another thing that I'm hoping, this is something that I'm absolutely certain that I will be able to continue, but our Kentucky Derby content in 2022 was very, very good. Obviously, we produced something for every single horse, nearly driving myself into the ground to do that. But got something for every single horse out there. And then our overall Kentucky Derby preview went very well. There were only three horses in my case, that I missed on in the overall read of talent. But if you group together myself and Eric, there were only two horses that we misread in that Kentucky Derby last year. And I was the other day going back and listening to some of the things that we said to prepare for the year-end, the 2022 post-mortem episode. And I was shocked at how right we were. And I don't mean to, sound like I'm patting myself on the back there, but we were right on so many of those horses in the Kentucky Derby. Messier was the biggest one, but we were the only show out there that got the pace meltdown right last year. And one thing that we do on Racing Rundown better than just about anything else that we do is read paces. I had a couple of, aside from the Kentucky Derby, I had a couple of races I did on my own last year that I read the pace really well in them, and the pace played out pretty much exactly how I thought that it was going to. So definitely stay the course with the Kentucky Derby and continue to stay the course with continuing to read paces as well as we do. And that's really the kind of, I guess you can say, the catchphrase for this is stay the course, because there's a lot of things that I think that we did well last year that we just have to, keep doing better at. And, like I said, don't be gun shy, but don't be too reckless, because I need to find the better bet. That was the big thing that I said going into this year. Find the balance. Take the short price favorite that you don't love when it makes sense to take the short price favorite, but at the same time, don't be afraid to take the shot when it makes sense to take the shot.
I think that's a very good approach, and something that I have admitted that I have a problem with, and will probably still have a problem with for a very long time. My goal this year is to just bet Belmont extremely heavily, because I did so much better at Belmont last year than everywhere else. So that's going to be my strategy, and I'm just going to keep doing the things that worked for me last year and not do the things that didn't work. So I'm going to try to kind of feed off your advice there, and but in a different fashion, considering I'm not as focused on the stakes races, of course, as you are, since you do a show. But I know you bet normal races as well, and we all have our different theories for maiden races and stuff like that, which I'm sure we'll be talking about later this year at some point on this channel. And of course, if you're listening to this on Spotify, the YouTube channel not only has these episodes of One Turn Route, but also has a bunch of other videos too. Okay, the last thing, Jack, speaking of shows, in my opinion, you have the best racing show out there, because you guys are to the point. You give people a fair shot, but you're also not afraid to say what you want. You and Eric do an amazing job on Racing Rundown, and the show just keeps getting so much more successful. You also have the Spotify side, of course, or any podcast platform, and then you have the YouTube channel. So what are the plans you have for that for this year? That's really my last thought. What's your expectations with you in terms of the media?
Yeah, so YouTube is really just going to depend on availability and what we're able to do. Now, we certainly had to downsize how much stuff, if you go back to 2020 and early 2021, we were covering pretty much something every week, sometimes multiple races a weekend. And that was really possible because it was during COVID and largely during lockdowns. And frankly, we had the time to do it. And as I have become more involved in aspects of stuff on campus at WRHU and at school, that has taken some of the time that I would have been able to put towards Racing Rundown and not giving me as much time. So we're going to do, a fair amount of races to preview. I was thinking about doing a preview for the comp this weekend. I never got a chance to do it this weekend, but we're going to have previews for pretty much most of the major races. The Pegasus races are going to get something next week on the podcast. Overall, the important races will get previews on that side. And then just continuing to have every week our weekly episode. The really exciting thing is the 4-year mark for Racing Rundown is going to be coming up on February 5th, which that falls on a Sunday. So there's not any, special thing on the podcast side that's going to come out. But the episode that corresponds with that week is going to have, just the reflections of having done this show for 5 years and all that aspect of that. So certainly that's something that in the short term I'm preparing for, is just reflecting on it and talking about everything that has come from Racing Rundown over the course that we've done that. And then going into the Kentucky Derby this year, it's still mine and Eric's goal to do Kentucky Derby profiles like we did in 2022 for all the horses that will be running in the Kentucky Derby this year. So all 20 horses that make the starting gate, we will have profiles for them. And then I didn't talk about this, and I know when we were talking about the stuff at Belmont, I know you said you should talk about what you did last year at the Belmont Stakes, and my involvement on the racing side with WRHU is going to increase, and cooperating with stuff. I was able to put what I did with WRHU on Racing Rundown, and use kind of mutually benefit those two shows. So definitely stuff with that. And that's something that I've been very grateful for having been given the opportunity. And last year, I wasn't as far along in the radio station as I am now. So I will be heavily involved in our Belmont preview show that we do on WRHU the Thursday morning. It's a 3-hour show before the Belmont. We'll obviously talk about that more the closer the Belmont gets, but certainly involved in that show. I've been planning that show since November. So really, to me, the Belmont Stakes can't come soon enough, because it was an incredible Belmont 2022 was an incredible experience. And I know that I've got people who at the radio station that I know are going to be interested in going to the race. And I've got a couple of people that actually expressed interest in being alongside me while covering the race. So definitely looking forward to that. I don't know what we're going to see at Belmont 2023. Exactly what happens is a little bit up in the air right now at this point, because it's still 5.5 months away. But my involvement with Racing Rundown and the continued cooperation with WRHU, there's something that I'm not going to announce it yet because it's not yet official, but I'm 90% sure that there's going to be more regular racing involvement with me than just the occasional things at the radio station there. So that aspect with Racing Rundown, and also, continuing the WRHU stuff, I'm sure that there will be Kentucky Derby content to come from that. And like I said, the 5-year thing, this is the 5th year of the podcast and the 4-year anniversary. Again, the first episode of Racing Rundown came out on February 5th, 2019, and February 5th, 2023. It's going to be the 4-year anniversary of when that first episode came out. And the show has certainly come a long way since that. And then our 200th episode is also looming. That is going to be the week of March 4th. I look at every week in terms of Saturdays. So the Saturday, March 4th week is when episode 200 of Racing Rundown will be out. So several milestones that we're going to hit really close to each other with the show. And then just a lot of just general things that are going to come. And I'm sure that I will be in town on this network with Andrew for several things. I don't know how much Wood Memorial content we're going to do, but I'm hoping to have some coverage for the Wood Memorial in every aspect of what I do. So that's really the big short term. So in terms of the short term things, that's really what I'm looking at.
Well, Jack, you sort of laid out everything, so I have no further questions or anything. Thank you for coming and sharing your expectations for the upcoming year. At least on your end, you're the first one here. There seems to be a lot to be excited about. I have my own expectations. I might make my own short video about those in the full sense of the word, but I'm just looking forward to try and have as good a year as I had in 2022, because 2022 was pretty good from a racing aspect. So we're going to try and keep things up that way, and Jack is absolutely going to keep things up, and I know he's going to get better because he's the freaking man, and that's why I have him on these shows all the time. Jack, thanks for coming. And I hope that all your dreams come true this year, and that Racing Rundown just becomes even that much more successful than it already is.
Pleasure to drop by, or as what my catchphrase now has become, it was delightful to be here.
As a reminder, you can find Jack on social media, on Twitter at JackSargent_, on Twitter also at Rundown Racing. You can check out the Racing Rundown YouTube page, and of course the Racing Rundown podcast. And also don't forget to check out Eric's page. Of course, Eric is Jack's partner on Racing Rundown, at Eric DeCoster _ on Twitter. So next we'll be introducing our next guest on the show. He's only 13 years old, but he's already had a great impact on the internet scene here in horse racing, and that is Mr. Jalen Santos. Alright everyone, so I'm sitting here with Jalen, our second guest on episode 10 of One Turn Route, and I had Jalen on either once or twice last year, I can't remember exactly, but he did a great job, and of course he does a great job because he's been on different YouTube shows, much more high profile than any of mine. So Jalen, how you doing? And it's great to have you here.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. I think this is my second time on with you. When I was on with you first for the Belmont, it was my first time being on a YouTube video. I'm doing great. Everything's good. How about you?
I'm doing just great, and hopefully looking forward to this show picking up a little more steam on Spotify and have more than 30 views a video. That would be nice. But not important. The main thing is we try to have fun here, and we're going to talk about, of course, your expectations for the upcoming year. Maybe not making an hour and 15-minute Belmont video like we did last year, carrying on about a race that was kind of a formality. But
Yeah.
let's let you talk, Jalen. So, what are you looking forward to this year in horse racing?
Well, God, what should I start with? Tracks, trainers, horses, individually?
I was gonna
What do
let you can talk about whatever you're most excited about first in general, and then I can hit the specifics later on.
Okay, I mean, well, obviously, I think a lot of people, I'm pretty excited for Triple Crown season this year. You know, so far what we've seen for the 3-year-olds and as 2-year-olds, it looks like this crop has a lot of them, at least some of the highlights or some of the under the radar horses as 2-year-olds really have come back and improved. It seems that, you know, we have like Instant Coffee, for example. He's winning what he's supposed to. I know there are people trashing on him a little bit that he doesn't win in fast times and is hard ridden. Right, we have Forte, who's yet to be seen. You know, we have all these top 3-year-olds coming back, and I'm really excited to see them. It looks like it'll be possibly as wide open as it was last year, and I think this might be a little better crop than last year. I hope so, because last year I think the further we went on, it was just a better crop. You know, seeing Cyberknife, Epicenter, Taba, those three really emerging for the 3-year-old battle. We still will yet to be seen whether it will be Epicenter or Taba for champion 3-year-old. So I'm hoping it's, you know, good competition, wide open, and I'm looking forward to the Triple Crown season, seeing between now and then who can really improve, all the excitement and anticipation of the Derby, the Preakness, and then the Belmont. And then, you know, over the summer at Saratoga, who comes out there. You know, also, besides the Triple Crown season, right, the individual horses, this is more on the trainers, actually, than the individual horses, but I hope we see trainers taking more chances, right? Go to different circuits, maybe stop caring about the grade so much. You know, go to the horse historic races that might be grade 2s or grade 3s now. You know, take some more chances, race them a little bit more. I don't want to see horses that, you know, will run in the Preakness and then don't come back until the Jim Dandy or Travers, you know. You know, also I want to see maybe a bit stronger Haskell this year. The Haskell's a race that I really like each year. This year we saw Cyberknife would do something that's pretty hard to do in the Haskell, Travers, and the PA Derby. Winning the Haskells. Winning the Haskell by a nose. Second in the Travers, and then I think third or fourth in the PA Derby. I can't quite remember. But, you know, I really hope we see trainers take more chances, horses running more at different circuits that they aren't necessarily expected to, running in races they aren't necessarily expected to. You know, I'm hoping that these big grade stakes are high competition. I don't see, you know, grade stakes with one really good horse, one really good 3-year-old that just runs off the screen, and then we have all these other, like, allowance horses just taking a shot because they know nobody else good in there. So yeah, I hope the trainers take more risks, you know, run at more different circuits. Looking forward to the great stakes races that'll be coming up in the next couple months. obviously with Derby prep season, the ones in April, I love the Bluegrass, I love the Florida Derby. I want those to be good races, better than they were last year. The Florida Derby last year, right? You have White Barrio winning, a favorite, comes home, that last furlong in 13 seconds and really hasn't done all that much since. In the Bluegrass, you had Zandon, who since then, if I remember right, has not won since then.
No, he has not.
But yeah, that's just typical Zandon, always finishing second, third in the Cigar Mile. He was a bit of a no-show, finishing fourth, I think. But I'm hoping that we see maybe a more high competition crop this year, more risks from the horses. I'm hoping also that we see older horses staying around more, and I want 3-year-olds from this year to stay around next year, right? But that's something that's not necessarily this year. I want the tracks. That's another thing. Tracks. I want them to stop trying to kill each other. Each track is just raising its purses with meets during the same time as each other. Right. I'd love it if we could have some more scheduling changes where we have meets going on. Either keep meets longer, so there's chances to run at both, or make meets at different times of the year, so then we can have horses running at different tracks, like I said. Instead of just raising purses like Churchill to $145,000 allowance races just to take horses away from, Oaklawn, right? So I'm hoping that we see maybe a little more or less track competition, so we're seeing more horses running at more tracks. I'm hoping that, as far as breeding goes, I'd rather not have stallions at $500,000 breeding 250 mares a year. That's another thing. I want more pedigrees. And we don't really see a lot of various pedigrees, right? You can watch stakes races. And this is one thing, I'm going to say stakes races, and there's going to be people listening. Oh, well, that's stakes races, obviously. Why don't you talk about allowances or something? Stakes races are where it matters most, in my opinion, is not seeing, with breeding, it's kind of like Baffert in California, right? We have stakes races, 6 horses in the race, 4 horses are Bafferts. All right, we can see a 10-horse field, and most of the entire field is made up of Tappets, gun runners, into Mischiefs, and quality roads or something. We're seeing the same stallions dominating, and that's great that they're dominating, but there's so many of them that the other little stallions aren't really getting chances to do well at stud, because they're always going to be overshadowed by the stallions breeding 250 mares a year, and almost all of them end up giving birth, and now half of them are stakes horses, So, that's another thing. I know last year at one point they were talking about putting a breeding cap on. I know that didn't go over well with some of the breeding farms. I don't know about a breeding cap. Maybe if it comes to it, but I think that's more something that the farms individually can do, or more farms taking in little stallions, who normally wouldn't really get a big chance at stud, and maybe they would if bigger stud farms take more risks too and take in little stallions, As far as breeding also, I'd like to see America importing more international horses, right? We've seen the rise of Japan's racing over the last 10 years. That's something they've done, right? They've been importing horses from all over the world to breed, right? Just recently they took Hot Rod Charlie. That was a shocker. Hot Rod Charlie was one of the top horses in his 2-year-old season, in his 3-year-old season, and in his 4-year-old season. So it was kind of a shocker to see them pick up him. But, I think we should start doing more of that. Maybe we should have more bloodstock agents go overseas and try to import more horses, right? During Claiborne's prime, when they, owned American breeding, that's what they were doing, right? They would import horses from overseas, and then suddenly that horse is the leading sire in America 5 straight years. Right, so I just want to see racing maybe diversify a little bit more in the breeding, in the circuits that we're racing on, and even in trainers. Honestly, I want to see some upcoming trainers. Right, in the last long time, we've seen kind of the same ones: Bob Baffert, Steve Asmussen, Todd Pletcher, Dwayne Lucas, Brad Cox is kind of on the rise, but I mean he's even been in the scene for a while. Chad Brown, kind of same thing. He's been in the scene for a while. Maybe he's, maybe some people don't hold him as high regard as the first two or three that I mentioned. All right, but we've seen kind of the same faces dominating it for quite a while. I want to see some more new faces and trainers, some more new faces and breeding stallions. And I want to see a little bit of diversity in where horses are running, how often they're running, and in the breeding scene. So that's some things that I'm hoping to see, and some of the trends that I'm looking forward to. If any of those actually do end up happening, but those are some things that I want to see this year.
I don't think I disagree with one thing you said. I think you're spot on with just about everything, and I hope for almost all the same things, especially with the risk-taking part of things. And I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that up, because we do need to see the best horses run in spots where they deserve to run and showcase their talents to not only their favorite audiences but their different audiences. And I agree, don't get hung up in the grade. I mean, the only people who get hung up in the grade are the Eclipse Award voters. Nobody else really cares, and the breeding industry. Go run in races that matter a lot and showcase your horse's best performance. Now, it kind of blends the two together, like me and Jack were talking about on the last episode. Warlike Goddess, despite being the best American turf horse, she doesn't have the opportunity to get those bigger race wins, especially the grade ones, because her division has none, pretty much. At a mile and 3/8, mile and a half, there none exist. So we hope that she runs against the boys this year, and that's my entire year running against the boys. Unless maybe she runs in the New York one, she could run again in the Flower Bowl, but she needs to try something like the Man of War or the Sword Dancer, and probably run in the Turf Classic again, something like that, to showcase just how good she really is. And I think she can beat those. I mean, the American males are so bad that she should be able to beat them. So that's even a lesser example of taking a risk, because it's not really that risky. But I completely agree that it needs to happen, not just in that division, but in a lot of other divisions that we have.
Yeah, and I mean, while I was listening to that, I agree with a lot of what you said, and different divisions get less opportunities too, and I mean, now I was talking to you before we started recording, right, about what horses we were each looking forward to seeing this year, and one that I said was Forte. Right, typical Pletcher horse. He'll take Florida route to the Derby, Holy Bull, Florida Derby. He'll go to the Derby if he wins Preakness, if not Belmont, and then we'll see him at Saratoga. Right, that's the problem. That's what every single Todd Pletcher 3-year-old colt is doing. Right, he sends them to either the Florida circuit or to Aqueduct circuit on their path to the Derby. If they win the Derby, which he's only done twice, then we see them in the Preakness. If not, then they'll just go straight to the Belmont, right? And then we probably won't see them again until the Travers. And something with that's the problem with all the trainers, is they stick to their same circuits, right? Bob Baffert, like I was saying, running 3-4 horses in a 6-horse field. He stays in California. Once in a while, we'll send a horse to Arkansas. He doesn't leave that little bubble. Steve Asmussen, Oaklawn, Churchill, and Keeneland during Saratoga, right? They each have their 2 or 3 tracks that they run at. I want to see it a bit broader, right? I want to see all these different opportunities. I mean, I want to see a stake in California with Baffert, Asmussen, and Pletcher running in it. That'll never happen, because they stay at the same 2 or 3 tracks, but that's just something you just hope. And then also something with horses traveling more, running more, and this ties into what I was talking about with more diversity in the breeding side of it. with these same horses, right, with all these really expensive bloodlines over the years, right, since Claiborne's prime, I'd really say. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but the better our horses get, the more centered around speed we are. And so the less stamina our horses are going to have, and we've seen it, the more fragile they've gotten over years and years of breeding. So it's really hard for horses to run, every 2-3 weeks at 5, 6, 7 tracks around the country, and win all these grade ones. But it's not impossible. That's what I was saying. We need more diversity in breeding. We need more versatility in it. Right at the time of recording this, yesterday I was telling you about it. There was a race at Golden Gate yesterday. There's heavy favorite. They come out of the gate, he goes straight to the lead, he's dueling all the way until like halfway through the far turn. Puts away the horses he's dueled with, then he blows the turn and ends up out in the 10 or 11 lane, and he's dead last. Jock almost pulls him up from that point. He stopped completely. Goes all the way back to the inside. He's like 6 lengths back still at the 8th pole, and he still wins the race. We would never see that. I'm in these high quality graded stakes horses, right? Horse duels that long, horse duels for 7 furlongs in one of these grade ones, he's done finishing dead last, beating 20 lengths. Or if he did that and then blew the turn, done. Probably getting pulled up, if not getting beat 20 lengths. We would never see a horse come back from that. So I think we need more versatility in the breeding and in the racing side of it. And in training, we need more rigorous and versatility in training and in breeding for these horses.
Yeah, people are wondering why you've got horses that are struggling to get longer distances, especially on the turf, and then everybody gets excited when somebody goes 10-2 at a 2-year-old sale. There's got to be you can't have both in the grand scheme of things. Maybe you can, but you can't prioritize that first one so much if you want to have American success at not only the longer distances but longer careers for the horses as well. And I think all your points are fantastic.
Exactly. And I mean, that's, a problem with our breeding, like I said, is American breeding is now, we've gotten all centered so much around speed that, I mean, if you look at a horse, right, they have legs that are tinier than ours, but their leg muscles are their only way to get fit, and the only way to do that is by running. And their legs are tinier than ours, their bones are tinier than ours, all on this little plate-sized foot right at the bottom, with this tiny little spot above their ankle that connects it to their leg, and they're going 45 miles an hour, right? And so we can't breed them all for speed, and then expect them to really be able to run 159 going 1.25 miles, because they'll get injured if they do. We'll see injuries, we'll see more breakdowns, right? Because if we try to send them faster and longer, because with all that speed breeding, now they've gotten more fragile because we haven't bred them for stamina, we haven't bred them to build up their muscles, and so they're able to withstand more. So now they're breaking down, by going, I mean, now they're breaking down going, a furlong or 2 longer than their ideal, which for most is 7 or 8 furlongs, So it's a lot harder to see them do that when our breeding is so centered around speed. We've lost all fragility, or we've gained so much fragility, and we've lost all versatility in doing that.
Yep, I completely agree. So let's move on to a lighter topic, because we don't want everything to be doom and gloom. So you mentioned a lot about the 3-year-olds. Are there any other horses that you are really excited to see this year? I know you mentioned earlier to me Cody's Wish, but any turf horses, any older handicap horses, any fillies and mares?
Yeah, I will say for me that I know a lot more about dirt horses than turf horses, right? So I'm not, I won't have the same answers about turf horses that I will dirt horses, but I will say I hope Modern Games comes back this year. I don't think he's retired, has he?
I don't really follow the international horses, so I see
Yeah.
them when they come over here. That's a great question for Jack. I doubt it because even though he was very successful, I mean, he was only 3 for 7 this year. He's still pretty successful. They usually run their
Yeah.
horse. They usually keep running their horses.
Yeah, I hope Modern Games comes back this year. And then, I mean, turf horses in the country. I don't believe Annapolis has retired. Um, he was a really nice one to watch. I saw him up at Saratoga. He was cool to watch. So if he hasn't retired, he'd be cool to come and see. Warlike Goddess. She's a really top name, like we were talking about earlier. I hope she runs against the boys this year on the turf. But yeah, like I said, I don't know that much about turf racing as much as I do about dirt, so there aren't many horses that I know a bit about with turf. I know some of the top names, right? Annapolis, Warlike Goddess, Modern Games Overseas, Rebels Romance, but I don't know all of America's horses, right? All of America's turf horses and the up and coming horses. I don't even really follow turf stakes that much. And like I said earlier, with Britain, we're all about speed, and also America focuses more on dirt, so it's harder to get into turf. But yeah, I mean, the older horses, right? You have Cody's Wish, you have Taba coming back, and we were talking about this last night, actually. I was hoping to see, right, Baffert said he's sending both Country Grammar and Taba to Saudi Cup. I was hoping that he would send Taba to Dubai and Country Grammar to Saudi, right, and win both. That's not going to happen, though. But, Taba's really one I'm looking forward to. I think, honestly, I mean, we'll have to see who else stays around as long as they do. But Taba's quite a good candidate right now, if I had to place my bet, for Champion Older Dirt Male and Horse of the Year this year. He's really been improving all year as a 3-year-old. And now I think this year we'll see, the product of that, of all that improving, of how long it took him to get to the races. And I think we'll really see the best of him this year. I'm looking forward to Cody's Wish. Obviously, such a great story on him, and he's coming out of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I believe he's running in the Pegasus. The draw is later today, actually, so we'll see. Cyberknife, the Pegasus, will be his retirement race. This Proxy coming off of the first grade 1 of his career. That was a nice win. In the first grade 1 of his career. Proxy in the Clark at Churchill in November. That was a very nice win. Rich Strike obviously last in that race, Kentucky Derby winner. But he did beat some nice horses there. So he's one that I'm looking forward to. And those are all horses I mentioned that are running in the next couple months, right? I'm sure there'll be more. Ginobili, actually, is one that I've never really paid attention to. He was always just kind of there, showing up in some of the stakes, finishing, second, third, fourth, winning one occasionally at Del Mar. I never really paid attention to him. And then he won, what was that stake? I'm sorry, I forget the name of it. The stake that he just ran off the screen in.
I don't remember.
So I'm trying to think. I really don't remember, though. I know he beat Rated R Superstar in that race, Silver Prospector. So he beat some nice horses in that race. Some nice older horses in that race. And he ran off the screen there. I mean, I'm very excited to see him come back. They said that he'll either stay, the Oaklawn's route for the older horses, the Oaklawn Handicap, the Essex, those races, or he'll go overseas to either Saudi or Dubai and run in the sprint races or the mile race in Dubai. So he's one that I'm looking forward to. I think this year he looks pretty good. I don't think, actually, his trainer was saying something about him not really liking the Oaklawn track, which was a bit surprising because he ran off the screen. But he's the one I'm looking forward to, and that same day, actually verifying the 3-year-old Half to Midnight Bizu by Justify. He's very promising, ran the same distance in an allowance faster than Ginobili did, so he'll obviously go back to the Derby Trail. I was there for verifying's debut. He's a very good-looking horse, and I think he has a lot of potential. I mean, there's some 2-year-olds that I was looking at last year set sales. That I have a list on my computer. I don't remember the pedigrees off the top of my head. I should actually go check if any of them have been named or anything. But there's some nice 2-year-olds that'll be coming this year. There's some nice foals that will be born this year. I have a list of that on my computer of some of the top pedigrees that'll be born this year. So there's quite a few that I'm looking forward to in the fillies and mares. I think Clairiere is coming back. I haven't heard anything about her retiring, so that's pretty exciting. I've always been a big fan of her. Last year, I really thought it was her year. I've always thought she was better than Malathat. Last year, I really thought it was her year, beating Malathat twice in a row. And then getting injured in the personal events, and I was there at the track that day. And, I was probably a 16th of a mile down the track, and I could hear her banging her head on the gate. And then obviously comes out of the race that she's cut her tongue. I was there when Joel Rosario was talking to Steve Asmussen after the race. I was a few feet behind them. And, Asmussen's yelling at him, "What do you not want? What do you not want?" And they were talking about something, and then I hear Joelle as they're walking past me. Joelle says she just seemed dazed. Right, and then a couple days later, comes out that she cut her tongue and she hurt her head there. And then in the Breeders' Cup, she's involved in that thrilling stretch run 3-horse photo for the win there. Fortunately, getting third. Yeah, I think she's one that I'm looking forward to coming back this year, hopefully barring any injury. It'll really show what she can do this against, Malathat now retired, but against the newly turned 4-year-old fillies this year. If she is back. Nest, I'm hoping to see back. I haven't heard anything about her retiring. So, yeah, there's quite a few that I'm looking forward to, and really all the divisions.
Well, that's great, and I remember almost everything you're reminiscing about, and I have to say that distaff was... I think it was pretty much the race. It was the most exciting race of the year, in my mind, for sure. Yeah. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. You have, Blue Stripe, they turned for home, and Secret Oath, who everybody thought was dead in the water, taking the lead and clearing off, 2-3 lengths. And then here comes Malathat swooping down the outside with Blue Stripe swinging to the lead. Secret Oath had no more response. Nest isn't firing, and you have Blue Stripe flying to the lead, Malathat diving down the outside, and then you have Clairiere diving through that narrow gap on the rail, and then they all hit it together. That was great. Malathat just getting up in time there. That was a great race. I think that they haven't clipped award for that race of the year. I think that should earn it. I would say that, in my mind, that's definitely the race of the year.
Yeah, I remember you talk about the Haskell earlier when we were talking. I was right on the finish line for that race. That was a pretty exciting race, too. Even though maybe it wasn't the best Haskell in recent memory, you still had two of the top routers, and you definitely had the best 3-year-old sprinter. Was asked the question if he could get the 2 turns, which of course he didn't, Jack Christopher, but it's unfortunate he's retired now, too. But yeah. I'm glad we have other horses to look forward to this year for sure. We talked about the Triple Crown Trail Array. You're excited for that. You're excited for Derby prep season, Saratoga, of course. Are there any times you're going to the track, and what track you're going to? Have any plans?
I know that I will be there for the Whitney, for the Alabama, and for the Travers those weekends. I'm hoping PA Derby, maybe, and maybe there'll be some surprises along the way. But yeah, I know those 3 dates at Saratoga. I know I am going to Kentucky in June, so I'll probably be at Churchill one of those days. And then hopefully PA Derby. Not 100% sure on that.
Okay, well, that sounds exciting. I'm trying to get a friend's trip up to Saratoga this year. I do go to Lake George every year, but I don't go to Saratoga while I'm in Lake George, even though it's so close, just because Lake George is too awesome. So I'd have to take a separate trip just to go to Saratoga. But I think I might do that because I've been debating about it for a few years, actually ever since 2019. So I'm thinking about doing that. And I try to meet up. Of course, I saw Travers Day last year. All the pictures, you, Sammy, everybody else who was there, the racing dudes, guys. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really fun that day. Actually, the Travers last year was just 2 days before my birthday, so that was also my birthday weekend. So that was very fun.
That's great. If you ever do, on a whim, come down to Belmont, please let me know, because I really would like to meet you. But hopefully I'll get to meet you in person sometime soon, regardless of that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I would. Sorry, but I would love to come down to Belmont soon, planning it in the next year or two to get down there, just because it's so close to me. It's one of the closest tracks to me. It's only like 3.5 or 4 hours away, so.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to come before they tear down the grandstand. You need to see this place as it is now, because it is that great. You do need to be here.
Yeah.
All right, so with that being said, I've got one more thing I'd like to talk to you about, and that is, of course, if anybody knows you, they know that you've been on a few YouTube shows the past year, probably most notably with the Triple Clowns. So, my question to you is, what things do you have planned for this year on the airwaves besides this minor appearance?
Um. Well, I wouldn't say this is minor. I mean, this is actually pretty exciting. First time being on Spotify, you said. That's pretty exciting. But I'm not sure. I guess see how it goes as we go along. Because I mean, last year, starting with you for the Belmont, right, and then next time I was on one, I think was shortly after the Travers for a Saratoga recap show with the racing dudes, and then I was with the Triple Clowns for like a month or two, doing that like every week. And now I'm back on here, right? So I mean, I don't know, I'm keeping my options open. We'll see how it goes over the course of the year.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, definitely take any opportunity that you can. Any opportunity somebody gives you, even if you don't like it, give it a shot. Because you never know where you might wind up in the long run. I know Dennis did the same thing, and he wound up founding his niche, doing stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Jalen. Well, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks for giving us your 2023 expectations. Where can people find you out there?
Well, my Twitter username here. Let me pull it up for you right now, because I don't. Yeah, my Twitter username is at Jalen_Santos7. So you can find me on Twitter. That's pretty much the only place you can find me, really.
Well, and I bet you we will be finding you other places as the year goes on. I'm very confident about that.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome here as well to come on any show, of course.
Yeah, anytime.
Yep, thanks for coming on, and we'll be moving on to our next guest right now. And that next guest is Dennis Trusty, who was just on the last episode of One Turn Route. We had a super fun time on that interview. So, Dennis, it's nice to have you back so quickly.
Super fun time. That wasn't very fun for me. No, I'm kidding. It was awesome. Great to be here. Great to be on this episode 10. It's a special thing that you're doing with this. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here once again. I guess in back-to-back episodes now. That's a rare occasion for your channel, I guess.
Well, particularly with this One Turn Route series, yeah, you are the first repeat customer. So congratulations.
Yay!
Well, it's great to have you here. So what are your 2023 racing expectations, Dennis?
For this year, I think the 3-year-old division looks pretty good right now. So I think that's a good place to start because we just saw the LeCompte at the time of recording on this. And Instant Coffee was pretty good. So I think that's a solid B horse for Brad Cox. And that's a good sign because if some of these trainers have solid Bs, that means their A's should be really talented. And I'm not really looking forward to the Pegasus coming up this weekend at the time of recording. I really am not, but it is what it is. I don't know what else kind of expectations I have for this year. I'd rather wait and see and watch it happen and talk about it as it happens than try to predict the future on all this.
Well, maybe instead of predicting what's going to happen, how about what about yourself? Do you have any wagering strategies planned for this year? Things you're going to attack differently, or you're going to kind of stick with your model that you so graciously described in the last episode?
Um, I've been working on something from somebody else, and I know that this is a pretty hard thing. It's a hard working thing. It's actually doing odds yourself, and that way it gets more value for you and has your solid opinion on it, on what's value and what's not. Um, and I think learning that has been a very fun challenge for me, and I think that's something everybody should try to do, right?
Of course.
I also have an article in the works coming out. Um, I don't know where it will be at though. I'm gonna ask around and see. Could be here, could be somewhere else. I don't know, but it's gonna be the 5 easiest ways to improve your gambling. And is that a good concept, you think, or is that not a good idea? Let me ask you that while we're live here on air.
Well, I think it's not only good, I think it's necessary even for experienced gamblers because we all make mistakes and we all have
Mm-hmm.
our bad habits, and I know that I have them and I never get out of them. I have changed a few things, but I still kind of regress in certain ways. I don't want to turn this into a boring discussion on my style of handicapping and where my money's going, but let's just say it's convoluted at best. But I will say you are more than welcome to put your article up on the One Turn Route website, that's for sure. Even if you do put it somewhere else, I don't care because my website doesn't get that much traffic anyway. So go ahead, put it up here too.
Well, I appreciate that. I definitely do. The hardest thing I think about doing media stuff is I'm a free spirited freelancer, I guess. And with that being said, I guess that I go back and forth between too many people at times. But so yeah, I'll see where it lands up. It could land up here. Could. I'll see where it goes. But yeah, I got a lot of article type stuff coming out, and that's been decent. I'm trying to do one a week for the Derby preps. Um, I've been doing some writing for the press box. Um, I've been also on for Trust the Prophets on their Thursday night live streams, and I've been doing my own thing with my own picks as well. So, at least for me, the 2023 year, I think I'm more open this year than I've been in a minute. So, anybody out there is listening, I'm free, I guess.
He's not only available, but he's also very good at what he does, and he's not one that's just going to pick favorites.
Oh no.
Plenty of value-oriented stuff from Dennis, which is fantastic, and we need more
Well,
of that.
well, and even with that said, I appreciate hearing that. You know, in that article I just did, I put up in there. I said, "When's the last time I had a horse that paid $53?" Oh, a week and a half ago. When's the one that I had pay $40? Oh, that was 4 days before that. You know, I believe in value and I believe in solid selections as far as prices go. I'm not going to just give you the favorite. We might lose a lot. And when we win, we're going to crush it. So,
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that kind of answered the YouTube slash media part of the
yeah.
2023 expectations, and I'm sure you'll be on this YouTube channel a few times on the Road Warriors
Hmm.
627 YouTube channel. This
Absolutely.
episode of the show is going out on Spotify and on YouTube as well. So definitely head over to the YouTube channel if you're just listening on Spotify. Check that out. Dennis has been a pretty
Hmm.
frequent guest, and he will continue to be into the future. So, aside from that, which horses are you looking forward to run this year? I know you kind of alluded to the 3-year-old group already, as have both Jack and Jalen. Of course, it's kind of the center of attention
Yeah.
this time of year. But what about other horses? Handicap horses, fillies and mares, turf horses. What are you looking forward to?
Um, honestly, the turf division I could care less about right now. I know I do well with that, um, but there's nothing really to go off of right now in the turf to me. Handicap division, I don't want to say a Baffert horse, but it has to be Tabo. I think he's going to be really good this year. Um, and with a lot of horses retiring, that kind of hurts the handicap division. So I expect an Olympiad type of horse to show out this year as well. I expect one of these older, like 5-year-old, 6-year-old horses to do a grind of just running the gauntlet, as I call it, for them older horses. Don't you expect that as well?
Yeah, I completely agree.
And then the 3-year-olds, oh my. I love Extra Neho. I want to see him run. Loggins, I want to see him run. Um, and there's a lot of preps that, in that Derby trail. And there's a horse that I really like that I'm going to say, guaranteed, I've said this on social media, that I guarantee will be having enough Derby points to get in. And could have a serious shot to do some damage in the Derby, actually, if he gets in, meaning or runs. You want to know who that is?
Of course I want to know who it is.
Scooby Quando.
Okay.
Can you tell me where this horse ran?
No idea.
Rich Strike Country Turfway.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's trained by Ben Colebrook. It's a half to $1 million earner March to the Arch. Could be a poly specialist. It's out of Uncle Mo. And Ben Colebrook is kind of the guy that would take it slow on a horse, try to develop him. Yet he debuts the horse in a stakes race at Turfway. He's 8-1 morning line, and he goes off favorite, and he wins first time out in a stakes race.
Yeah. That's promise.
So I said, okay, well, what did he do on dirt? Oh, he worked out a 46-4 on dirt at Keeneland. That's pretty good. Okay. What horses are at Turfway? Oh, they all basically suck. Okay, this horse is going to get enough points to get in the Derby, I think. And I know nobody else is talking about that horse. I brought it up online. People make fun of me. It's okay. People make mistakes. I understand. But no, that horse is definitely one I'm looking forward to that I think is under the radar. Now he'll probably be favorite at Turfway, but I mean under the radar as in general.
Yeah, and if you looked at the weekend last year of Kentucky Derby weekend, not only did you have a Turfway horse who was running at Turfway win the Derby, but the Turfway horses in general were running good races at Churchill Downs that weekend. So it's definitely something to pay attention to.
And I think there's going to be a lot of developing 3-year-olds. I'm interested to see how the Aqueduct division develops. And that Oakland Brad Cox horse as well, Victory Formation. I don't know what he is yet. I'm just kind of seeing what he develops into. But no, it should be a good year. And I didn't even speak about the 2-year-old champ, which I don't really like him that much as far as Derby prospect or a 3-year-old prospect. But it's Fletcher.
Yeah, I'm very much wait and see with Forte and even Cave Rock. Blazing Sevens, of course, is Chad, so I know that horse better, just from a personal perspective. Mm-hmm. And of course, he made me money in the Champagne, so I'm gonna, of course, lean towards him a little bit, as hoping to see good things from him. But yeah, I think you just got to take some time. There's no rush. I'm more excited to see older horses return, especially a lot from Belmont's barn, Cody's Wish, Elite Power, Warlike Goddess, the Queen. horses like that, Casa Creed, Channel Makers running this weekend. Those are 5 Bill Mott horses right there, just like I brought up with Jack. We just, the two of us just kept naming Bill Mott horses the whole time. So that's great.
You know, now that you mention that, I forgot all about those horses. Yeah, that's a great list from Mott. I forgot Mott was that loaded. I mean, I like Elite Power. I want to see what he does. I want to see what Strobe does as well, the horse that beat Elite Power on Derby Day. Yeah, the sprint division looks pretty good this year.
I don't think it's that good, actually, but I think that you have the chance to see some new talent emerge, and maybe if some of these 3-year-olds, like let's say Cave Rock doesn't turn out to be a good 2-turn horse, he has speed. Mm-hmm. What if he becomes a factor in the sprint division with the older horses? There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dennis. So what I was gonna get into next. What about going to the racetrack? What are your plans going to the racetrack this year? You still plan on going to Churchill a lot?
Oh, I got banned from there. When you run naked across the track. No, I'm kidding. I plan on going to the track a lot. I've been to Turfway a few times this year, and I like it. I think Turfway's really improved, and I know a lot of people did not like it when it first opened. They must not remember the old Turfway. I think that's a major improvement on them, and I'm just excited to go to Churchill, like you said. I might go to Keeneland maybe once. I don't know. Keeneland doesn't do it for me anymore.
I was always curious about Keeneland, and not to go off on a tangent here, but what do you describe the atmosphere of Keeneland as?
It's crowded. It's rich snobs. It's hard to find a seat, which that makes it pretty bad. It's colder. Like it's not Turfway cold, but it's like, oh, this is, you could be wearing a jacket 1 minute and then need a t-shirt and then need the jacket back on, type of weather. So at least at Turfway, you're going to need a full-fledged coat and be cold, I will say there's one track in Kentucky you will never catch me at again. I don't think I will ever go to Ellis Park again unless I'm getting paid a lot of money to do it. Yeah, because that was terrible. But yeah, Ellis Park, I don't really like the track itself. I like the betting at least from Ellis Park, and I like the I guess the odds of it. The track itself, I don't like that. And I tell you another track that I'm starting to not really like is Kentucky Downs. That they've changed that and made it for the rich people as well by cutting off half the stretch. So those are the type of tracks I guess I'm around. So I don't know. I'll definitely try to go up to Turfway again. I'll definitely be at Churchill for sure.
See, I want to bring up two things you said. First of all, when you were describing Keeneland, it kind of sounded like you were describing Saratoga, because I think of Saratoga as pretty much the same way you were describing Keeneland, almost down to a T, except maybe there's a few more common people out in the backyard. That it's more of a common crowd out there. But in the grandstand, there's a bunch of snobs. There's summer, like rich summer people dressed up, all that kind of stuff. And then when you were talking about what happened down at Kentucky Downs, people don't understand why I'm so passionate about keeping Belmont Park the way it is. It's exactly what you just described at Kentucky Downs. I'm worried that they're going to take away areas for regular fans and devote them to garbage. That's what I'm worried about.
Do you know how much it is for seats where they cut it off at Kentucky Downs?
I'm going to guess $50.
You have to have a full table of 8, and it's over $1,000.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this just goes to show you how screwed up this frickin' sport is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's just ridiculous. Like, you could get 8 of a family members down there, and I'll split it, and it wouldn't be as bad. I mean, but I don't have 8 friends.
Not even that. You're going to a place to gamble.
Yeah.
That's.
Oh, in Kentucky Downs, when I went down there the first time, I was like, okay, I can deal with this being cut off a little bit. It's not that bad. It's bring your own alcohol. You know, it's not that bad. Well, then next time I went, it just felt like it was ridiculously crowded, and and the reason why it felt crowded is because it was raining and they canceled races about midway through, and everyone was inside, and you couldn't sit down because the only seats had slot machines.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's not
and
good.
The simulcast part, the simulcast part did have chairs, but they was like the old wooden chairs that they probably used when the place first opened. So they didn't care about that part, obviously.
Well, I'm just going to say right now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm concerned about at my track. And why I keep saying the same things over and over again on Twitter, and if people are getting tired of it, I'm sorry. But these things matter for the future. And when you turn a place that was once great into something that is expensive and or for rich people who are really, I mean, probably though things down to Kentucky Downs get used more because it's an exclusive, very short meet. But when you're talking about using it 2 days out of 80 days, like what would be going on up here, and ruining it for everybody else with no access the other days, that's a problem.
Yeah. And I'll even say this too. I mean, not to go down this road. We just talked about the media and stuff, but I'm kind of ashamed to, I don't really. I guess I consider myself in horse racing media. I do have a lot of followers and stuff, and I do say a lot of things. And I know people get mad about that, but it's true. I've broken news stories. I've broken, I've broken jockeys returning. I've stuff when horses got hurt, and I've seen it live. I mean, I don't really like doing that anymore because that's a little bit of a tricky thing, and I don't. But I'm embarrassed of our horse racing media.
I am too, and I feel like they're not focusing on issues that are much more important that they should be.
Yeah, and to me, it's because I'll use an example of a very serious situation that thankfully it's okay. When Mar Hamlin got hurt in the Bills game, they handled that as best as they could. Correct?
Absolutely, can't agree more.
They got information out as quickly as they could. They tried to, the only thing they did wrong was say, oh, well, we'll be back in 5 minutes and be ready to play. And then that turned into nobody wanted to play, which I'm fine with that. That was like I think an NFL decision, and then they stepped it into the players' decision. But that same weekend, we had a jockey get hurt. I can't pronounce her name as well. She's a Sunland jockey, Turf Paradise jockey. Joreen Shiver. And she got hurt pretty bad. I've seen 8 posts about it online. I've seen Turf Paradise post a GoFundMe link, and it was the wrong link.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's so much that needs to be upshifted in horse racing media after that night. That I'm embarrassed for our sport at times, and it's really sad that I say that as long as I've been doing it. And I'm embarrassed of I'll even go a step further with this. I'm embarrassed of the Eclipse Awards that's coming up this week. That's going to be an embarrassment because why? It's all about the names. It's all about I got to vote for my friend here so that way he keeps giving me information. It's not about who's the best, who's this, who's that.
Thank you. And that's why I wrote an 8-page article that actually went into who should, in my opinion, win the awards, describing a bunch of factors from the perspective of a gambler. and someone who actually evaluates trips and can determine how well a horse actually ran. Not just, oh, they won this race that has a G1 in front of the name, and they had this many G1 wins, grade 1 wins. No. No, if you're going to determine who's actually the best, you need to sit down and look. And I feel like people did that with Epicenter, and it looks like he's going to win, as he rightfully should, but it seems like the other divisions, they don't care. And you know that I learned that there are people who work for the Breeders' Cup who vote for the Eclipse Awards. Of course they're going to just vote for the stupid Breeders' Cup winners.
Yeah. Yes, they will. You know, I'll give you 2 awards. One that's not actually real, that I do every year. And one horse that I would put in a Horse of the Year category as my third choice. And then lastly, the one that's not going to get the award, I don't think. I hope he does. He deserves it. But so first of all, I'll say the award that they should have is Claimer of the Year. Or Claim of the Year. You claim a horse, you find a perfect spot, you win races with the horse, and celebrate that. That gives a small-time trainer a notoriety on a big stage, but you only care about rich people. Secondly, the third vote I had for Horse of the Year, my third pick, Beverly Park.
Completely understandable. Yep.
A horse wins. A horse runs. A horse ran all year. Sometimes ran 3 times in a month. If Flightline did that, he would never have been undefeated. He would never have looked as great as he would have, because every horse has a bad day. Sorry to tell you that, people. Sorry.
That's what people can't understand. Like, they can't give horses a break when they run 1/4 and, oh my God, they're not as good as they used to be. They're a horse. They're a living, breathing animal.
Yep. And then lastly, the one that's going to break my heart if this kid does not get this award. I know you're a New York guy. I know you're not a small track guy. Leading Apprentice, who would you vote for?
I voted for the horse awards in my article. I didn't vote for the human awards because I think they're stupid, but that's me.
I do too, except that Apprentice, because I think that, again, highlights a smaller track, a smaller time name, right? But who would you vote for if you had to go Leading Apprentice, if you had to think about it?
Well, I only know 2 of the 3 nominees. I don't even know the third one. So I can't. I don't know. I don't have I haven't watched videos of them ride to see who's actually better. So I can't make an informed decision. If I was actually an NTRA voter, I would not abstain from any category, and I would vote for every single category. Just as a fan who tries to figure out which horses were the best, I just wrote up my article about the award. Like, some of them I didn't even vote for second and third, because why am I going to vote for second and third in the two-year-old categories? It's just, I'm wasting my time. But if I had a vote, I would vote for them. I would complete my ballot 100% of the way.
Yeah. So for me, my Leading Apprentice would be Vicente Del Cid at Delta Evangeline and Louisiana Downs. The reason why is I didn't see Jose Gomez, and I did not see Barbosa take a horse that he has not rode in a race before, or a race after one race, win with the horse, and then be done with the horse. It's called improvement, and then he knows it's time to get off. You know what I'm saying? That's improvement to me. Not just riding a horse over and over again, getting 4th, getting 5th. Oh, and then we finally win, sort of thing. That is, I'm here, I ran this race, I upgraded the horse, and then I'm out. I know that's kind of rude, but
if I had a vote for Apprentice, what I would do is try to watch as many of the races that they rode in as I can, and figure out which one was making the least number of bad decisions.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even. I would not look at purse earnings. I would not look at. I would have to look at number of wins probably, but I'm more like you'll know that Dylan Davis is not going to get the credit that Joel Rosario gets, and yet I think Dylan Davis is an infinitely better rider than Joel Rosario. That's an example of where my mind goes, because Rosario does the same stupid crap over and over again, and it costs horses who should either win or get better placings. We're recording this video on January 23rd, and I'm in shock that he actually wired a race yesterday at Gulfstream. I'm in shock.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what I got for that stuff. Is there any more questions you have? I know.
Well, we kind of went off on like a mini tangent about the Eclipse Awards, which is okay because I think it's worth having. And by the time this comes out, the Eclipse Awards will already be decided. I pretty much know who's going to win every award except the Apprentice one and the Sprint one. Those are the only two that like I haven't seen enough votes from public ballots to get an idea of who's going to win. But let's just say I don't agree with some of them, of course, as I made clear in my article. And I'm sure we'll have the opportunity throughout the year to voice more of our frustrations.
And I'll say this one last thought. You'll like this. Horse of the year that I said was Flightline. I mean, I don't have a ballot, obviously, either, but I wish I did. But it was Flightline. But my older horse of the year was Olympiad.
And you know that I picked the awards exactly the same way. Yes, sir. That is the. Oh, I guess you didn't read my article then, but yes, I wrote exactly the same thing, and I explained why. Because Olympiad had a full campaign, and he was at the top of the class all the time. And if he didn't have to deal with that jet plane, he would have won Horse of the Year.
Yeah, that's where I landed on too. That's actually that's where I came up with that as well. But anyways, on to the next segment. I guess we'll talk this one to death. We love talking about this stuff.
Did you just see our passion, people? Yeah, I'm gonna share something that I shared with Jack. I'm just gonna reiterate it here, and we've talked about this before. My expectation for this year that I hope is going to happen, but it won't happen, I want to see jockeys get punished for not riding all the way to the finish line.
Yeah, please, as a gambler, please.
Yeah,
I would love that. You're
disrespecting the people who fund the game.
Look, I mean, I could say jockeys' names here I don't like. And I know people don't watch it really, so I guess I will. I can't stand Chris Landeros. We've had this talk before. If he's not 20-1, or he's not going to win, he does not care to ride. It's just obvious. But guess who he gets to ride for? Brad Cox. Why? Why do you think he gets to ride for Brad Cox, Andrew?
I don't know.
Oh, his agent is Bryce Cox.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Such a deserving person. Oh, and he gets to ride for Ian Wilkes, too. Why does he get to ride for Ian Wilkes?
Go ahead, say it.
He's married to his daughter. Okay, so you get two top trainers and you still can't do shit. You can't do anything. You're still a 10% jockey with Brad Cox and Ian Wilkes. Why? I would much rather have a guy that I know is going to give a damn about riding a horse to the wire. It frustrates me. You cannot ride. You could drive down the backstretch all day long trying to win the race, but as soon as you see, oh, I'm not going to win, you stop riding for third and fourth.
Yep, and not only Landeros, because I'm not going to say that he's not really a top rider in this country, but you have top riders in this country that are doing the same thing.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's sad to see the top riders do it, and, no, I'm not sitting here saying 40 lengths behind, keep driving, no. But if you're in a spot where your horse is either gaining spots in the fight, battling for third or fourth or fifth, because fifth is checks for trainers now, people, and I'll give an example. Indiana had a sign on their door, the HBPA office in Indiana, right? And so they had a sign on their door that said, if you cannot finish to the wire, don't come in asking for coffee.
Yep. That's a great sign.
But this is the thing. Indiana, their jockeys at least try. A lot of them do. A lot more than what Irad Ortiz does if he's not going to win. I mean, I'm just saying Irad because I know Irad's talented, but we see it all the time. He gives up. He quits. They all quit. I mean, it's hard to watch that. And I know these jockeys do a lot for us. I got a buddy of mine who got hurt really bad the other day, who's a gallop rider / jockey. And I'm not going to say his name here because I don't know if he wants it or not. And I don't want it on recording, I guess, if he doesn't want it to. But I know how hard their job is. I know that it's tough. I know that their job is, it can be really hard for them, especially the backside workers. But that's what you ride for, is them. You ride for them so they can get their paycheck.
I completely agree.
So I agree. Obviously, I think the whip rule is stupid still. I hope Sam Houston finds a way to get their racing to keep going in Texas racing. Because that's struggling. That's a whole other... we could talk about that for an hour. Because that's a terrible situation down there.
Yeah, their handle has just absolutely plummeted. I don't know how they're going to be able to operate even maybe for the next 2 weeks. But that's a great thing that you brought up with the rule, the 6 whip rule. You want to talk about integrity. Integrity is riding your horse to the fullest potential that he or she can be ridden. And I think most of Heiza is good, and I'm sorry to repeat this, people, because we talked about this already on this episode, but I think most of Heiza is good. But the bad part is you have that in there, and you don't have anything to combat race fixing or jockeys not trying. You have nothing to combat either of those two things.
Yeah. And I think I'm okay with the 6 whip rule if you put what you just said in there. But I'm not really okay with it either, in a way. I mean, I want a happy medium, I guess. And that's why I think the rule should be ride to the wire. And if your horse is gaining spots, you can still use the whip, or gaining ground, or acting interested, I guess.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Yes, if the horse is interested or in contention for, let's say, the first 5, because purses usually pay up to 5 spots, and also you have super high 5s in some places. I think that's a great way to treat it, Dennis. And I think this is a conversation we have to have because not enough people are having it.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I don't understand is, again, these people are fine with their media while we have bad coverages. These rich people are fine with the media because the media makes them look good, period. And TVG, TV now. You're complimenting Jeff Mullins Jr. after Jeff Mullins got suspended. I'm just saying that as an example of how can you compliment a guy's son who takes over his barn after he gets caught, and gets suspended. How can you compliment a guy like that?
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. It should be, oh, well, he won his first race. Congratulations.
Right. Just leave it at that. If
he didn't, he just said, look, I took over, I have my own barn. I got my own barn now. I'm going out for my dad. That suspension really affected me, blah, 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 whatever. but they wouldn't say that because they got to keep their image clean. And I'll even say another trainer that I think is going to be really good this year. He came out of Tom Amos. I know, and this was during his suspension, but he at least went out on his own after this. It wasn't like, oh, I get the horses' names and my name, and then I come back to you and they're back in your name. No. It was Joel de Meja. And so far from what I've seen from him, he's very talented. You know, he's got small claimers right now. He's got horses with Maggie Moss. Obviously came from Amos, so that's a good reason why he's got those horses. But, you know, there's a difference between those two. And you could obviously see there's a difference between one and the other.
Well, I hope these things do get addressed, and it's nice to hear. I'm glad that some positive came out of a situation like that, and we need more things like that. We need to move forward, and we need to punish the people who don't do the right things, and we need to fix the things that aren't right, and hopefully we can come to some kind of happy medium as you described it, because I think that would work out best for the fans, the gamblers, and for everybody that's involved. So
and let me actually include this too. I know we're taking a lot of time, but this is on my TV right now. Parks, really, Parks, really. Listen, I don't mind being interim race caller. I don't mind being we'll give her a shot. I don't mind her being if she was good, I wouldn't say a word about it. I wouldn't care. I'd say great. Glad a female is race calling in the sport. Good Lord, Jessica Paquette, I've not spoken about this at all publicly because I want to stay away from it because a lot of people like her, and I'm sure she's a nice person. Can you not call races, please?
I don't want to say anything more than for the 50th time, I'm with you. I've listened. I've called races into binoculars before at Belmont to practice because when I was younger, that is what I wanted to do when I grew up for part of the time before I realized that it would take a lot of luck to get there as well as practice, but more luck than anything else. And I even called a race on the TV. I know it's not the same thing, but I called a race on the TV with 3 minutes of preparation that Nathan gave me, and I could confidently say that I called a better race. So some people have it, and I don't think I have it. I'm just saying that I think I managed to get through it better, and some people don't. She was doing other stuff before this. Wasn't she some kind of paddock analyst down in Texas? Right?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. And, I mean, it's a very hard job, and I'm not saying that it's easy. I've called races before as well, and I've did it on a live stream on YouTube with Stable Duel or Remott, and oh my God, I want to give credit to this jockey. Holy fuck. I want to commend the jockey real quick, but I've called races for Assiniboine Downs on their live stream. It's hard. It's hard. It's. I wasn't as bad as her. I mean, I'm not saying I'm good, but I wasn't that bad. You know, and I tried to come up with something clever at the end. I mean, as you do, but you know. Okay, I want to commend a jockey here. Go watch the 5th race at Parks. It's January 23rd. Go watch the 5th race at Parks. Jose Trejos. Okay? Or Joseph Trejos. Whatever you want to call him. Lost his helmet midway through the race and kept driving.
There you go, people. That's what we're looking for.
Jose Trejos, you legend. What a ride. How can you lose your helmet and not just pull up? Heck, the horse could have fell.
Yeah,
Parks.
if something, yeah, it's Parks. If something happens and you fall without a helmet, you're dead. But he just kept going. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Wow. That, wow. Okay, that was kind of cool.
You can tell that
Okay.
there are people out there who do love to ride.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You know, I'd have pulled the horse up. I'm a little bitch, but uh, but no, it was really kind of funny to see that. I'm glad that I don't know if the horse even finished in the check, but he beat half the field.
He beat half the field and he was 41-1.
Oh well, but I didn't know what his odds was.
He went off at 41-1.
Wow, that's awesome. But yeah, sorry, that kind of just happened impromptuly.
No, those are the kind of things that we need to, like I said before, we need to talk about, and they need to be brought up because they highlight both the bad and the very good that can happen in this game when everybody does their part.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway.
Yeah, this is dragged. No, this is dragged on for long enough, Dennis. And of course, Jackson Jalen's drove on too. This thing's going to be about 3 hours at the end of the day, but I don't care because it's my show, and however it turns out, it turns out. So who cares? Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Where can people find you right now?
You can find me on Twitter at Dennis_Trusty. Like I said, I have selections for sale. I'm gonna try to do a lot more California and Charlestown as well. I don't like doing that one, but I'm trying it out. I'm seeing how that goes. And I don't like selling, but it is what it is. Gotta secure the bag. No, thanks for having me. I hope to come on again sometime soon.
Oh, absolutely. As I told, of course, Jack knows, and Jalen, you come on whenever you want.
Well, thank you. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the show.
Yep, and our next guest will be coming on right now. And that next guest is Nathan Klein, otherwise known as Sketchy the Horse Guy on YouTube. Nathan, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And are you excited for this upcoming year?
Yes, absolutely. This is gonna be a great year for me, especially when it comes to the sport of horse racing.
Well, that's wonderful, and I'm sure we'll get into why later. I know the reason why, but our other viewers out there will soon learn if they don't know what your whole deal is, and it's a pretty good one. So I'm sure you'll be able to enlighten them. But before we get into that sort of everything, is there anything you're most excited about for this year? As you could tell from the 3 guests we've had on already, I'm just letting you rip whatever you want to talk about first.
Alright, so if I had to pick what I'm definitely most excited about, it wouldn't be the actual horse racing itself, but it's 100% personal and maybe self-centered, depending on how you see it, but it's about my career in the horse racing industry, because I've already planted a lot of seeds from last year, and I feel like this year I could really burst forward.
And you can elaborate on that as much as you want.
Alright then, so in short, for those who don't already know, my big goal ever since I was, well, really young, ever since I really knew about horse racing, is always to be a race caller. Just like, the greats, like Tom Durkin, Dave Johnson, our favorites, and a couple of others. But I kind of want to be up there with that group. Not just like them, but also me. And, well, last year, I was able to successfully call 1 race officially, so technically I'm already a race announcer, but I think that this year I'm going to get way more opportunities. I'm not sure when or where they're going to happen, but I've already gotten plenty of shots, or suggestions like, hey, we could use a guy down at the fair in the Midwest or somewhere. The point being that I feel like as a freshman in a college literally about horse racing, this second semester can only get better than an already fantastic first semester, which has featured tons of great lessons and meetings with real racing people that I've genuinely looked up to for years.
When I saw some of the pictures that you were sharing, I was absolutely in shock. And it made me question my choice to do engineering. I think at the end of the day, I still made the right decision for me. But you think about it sometimes and think, wow, I could have met all these role models and worked in my favorite sport. So maybe I regret it a little bit, but yeah, who knows? Only the future will be able to tell the final decision. But what you're getting the opportunity to do is nothing short of incredibly cool.
Very much so. Like, I am over the moon already. The one thing I know for sure, a lot of the things I'm looking forward to are I am not 100% sure about, so I don't want to accidentally say something and then look on this like 6 months later and be like, that never happened. But what I know for sure is that even if none of the possible things I could be doing happen, I will be able to really start getting my foot in the door with working at Rito Downs, which is a small racetrack in Tucson, Arizona. It is quite literally 10 minutes away from my dorm room, which is something I've never had the privilege of growing up in North Carolina, where there is no horse racing whatsoever. So the fact that I can rely for a solid 9 weeks on the weekends just to drive over to a little old racetrack, see horses run around in circles and maybe lose their minds. I don't know, I've heard some horror stories down there. But just the fact I'll be in the horse racing world only 10 minutes away from my dorm for 9 weeks, and actually I've already been told that I will have some shots to possibly call races, but I do have a second motive to also spread out my skills a bit more than that, because no race caller is just a race caller. To put it simply, it's kind of ironic in a sense, but like race callers, they'll do handicapping, they'll do on-air stuff, they'll some even bartend like Tom Durkin, or also manage entries, business managing, the list goes on and on. Race calling is just a small part of a race caller's life in the horse racing industry, so I think it's appropriate that I do, I guess, I don't know the word for it, but basically just get more skills. Be more versatile. Versatility is very much a sought-after trait in horse racing because there's never a shortage of jobs if you have the skills for them.
That's one very positive thing that the racing business has. Oh, and there's a lot of negatives, but that's one good thing, and I'd like to see that continue, especially for younger people our age. Because I feel like those people are still lacking, even though the promise is showing. So that's great, and you kind of answered the questions I thought we were going to get into later up front, but that's great, and I'm glad you answered them first because that is the biggest priority with you, and it's by far the most important thing. So that's great. So let's move on. What horses are you excited to see run this year?
If I had, there are a couple of horses that I think might have some promise, but it's too early in the Kentucky Derby trial for me to really be excited. And a lot of the greatest horses from last year are retired or are going to be retired. Like there was a slimmer of hope with like Cyberknife, but he's not. But he's retiring in the Pegasus. Depending on when this video gets out, he might even be done racing by the time you upload this video.
He will be done. This is coming out February 1st.
Yeah, okay. So, by February 1st. So, Cyberknife, he'll be done with the Pegasus. I don't know how he's going to be doing. Maybe he'll win, maybe he'll not. That'll be kind of cool. But like, so the top level horses, there's not a lot there. But I do cling on to one horse, and that's Beverly Park. Beverly Park is going to be my Seabiscuit, my hero, my knight in shining armor, when the top level performing horses fail to really, do the one thing they're bred to do, race. I know some people like to say that race horses are actually breeding horses. They're just sperm machines. No, they're bred to race. So a horse like Beverly Park, who is bred to race and maximizes it to its fullest ability, is my hero.
Yeah, and Dennis was just on and he was talking about Beverly Park. So I think that's a great thing to bring up, and it's a story we should really see more about a horse running and not only winning but just running that many times is a beautiful thing that unfortunately has gone out of style in this game. Any turf horses, fillies and mares, handicap horses?
For fillies and mares and turf horses, I'll be honest, that is a part of the division that I never really keep up with. But at the same time, I do know that I'm going to look forward to the turf triple, because seeing horses like McCulloch and Nation's Pride be just one jewel away from making the turf triple have its first winner gives me hope that some bored Englishman is going to bring his 8th best horse and sweep the American turf triple crown. I know that's the kind of horse that we're going to get, but still, it's a triple, and I like to see triples happen, even if it's not the American Triple Crown. But it also does leave kind of like endless possibilities for me, because with no horses to really know of or think about, I could go out. The world's my oyster. That's the short and skippy of it. I could run into any horse this year and be like, hey, this will be nice, and then get sucked into all this turf racing.
Well, that would be very cool if you get to that. Everybody knows I love turf racing. I feel it's more exciting than dirt racing, even though it's not as it's getting there, but it's still not as promoted as dirt racing in this country. And yeah, I would like that too. And if one of them is on the line, I'll definitely be heading to Aqueduct the first weekend in the fall to go see if it happens. It's a great series. I really like it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the turf triple really, I think that was the first thing that really got me semi-excited for turf racing. Like, it's not like I don't watch turf racing at all. Like, I've been excited about turf horses plenty of times. I mean, I grew up to watch horses like Enable, Highland Reel, Australia, Trev. I'm just thinking of the first turf horses that come to mind, and even like if we go way back, St. Nicholas Abbey was one of the first turf horses I ever fell in love with. So it's not like I can't fall in love with a turf horse. It's just that I haven't found one yet. And also, the American ones, for lack of a better term, are awful. We've yet to really find a good American turf horse in a while.
Well, you do have the Queen, Warlike Goddess.
You know what? That's one thing I really do like about turf horses, and also just turf racing in general, is I like how unisex it can be. Like a great female horse, there's almost no hesitation when she gets good enough to put her up against the boys, and people will give her a fair shake and say, hell yeah, she could do it. In dirt racing, I feel like it's just as possible for a great dirt female to beat the boys. It's just that people just don't do it as much. So I do like divisions like that, or honestly anywhere else in the world where it seems very clear that racing is much more unisex.
Me, Jack, and Dennis were talking about this earlier on this show. We just love Bill Mott, because Bill Mott is not afraid to take those chances. And I think you're going to be seeing him do it even more with Warlike Goddess this year, so she actually gets considered for an Eclipse Award. She should have already won twice.
I mean, we'll know by the time this video gets released if she did get her just desserts.
She did not. She's not going to. No chance. No way.
I'm an oracle, and I see her winning. Nah, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I do have an Eclipse Award video still in the works as of the recording of this video, so we'll also find out there where basically me and you have the exact same opinions. So that's just another fun clash of pessimism versus optimism.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we'll see, but I'm not feeling confident about it because, it's the number of grade ones. Yeah, shut up.
If there's one thing that people do love, it is a filly or a mare who beats the guys.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a good story. All right, so now let's move on. And you kind of already answered this question. I guess we'll just extend it back to dirt racing now. Are there any particular races you're looking forward to? You already mentioned the Turf Triple Series.
Well, I mean, obviously the Kentucky Derby always manages to be something, and this year it'll be right when my semester ends, so I don't know whether it's gonna be like a reward or if I'm gonna actually have to take a final exam the day of the Kentucky Derby. I do not know any of that, so that actually might. Now I'm kind of scared. But the Kentucky Derby always bodes well for me. I've always made it work. There's that. I've always enjoyed the international group ones, like the Dubai World Cup and the Saudi Cup. No matter what happens, like it's just a true spectacle that I think we need more of. Millions of dollars, the best horses from all around the world. Sure, sometimes a few cliches happen. Sometimes the best horse doesn't win, but I've always enjoyed the way that international races run. The only thing I don't like is waking up early, and that's only made worse by the fact that now I'm at Mountain Standard Time and not Eastern Time. So if I want any shot of catching all these races, I'm gonna have to wake up at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I don't know if I want to do that.
I don't blame you for that at all, and I agree with everything you said. There's a very good chance I might be taking a final exam the day before the Kentucky Derby. Luckily, hopefully that will be one of the last two I ever take in my life, and I'll be taking an even bigger exam 3 days before the Kentucky Derby, towards my licensing as a professional. So that'll be just great this year.
Sounds like a jolly good show.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be some kind of celebration. We're getting there, people. We are getting there. So, besides races, how about trips to the racetrack? Of course, you have the local racetrack that you elaborated on earlier, but are you going anywhere else? Do you have plans to, when you come home, go somewhere? I know you mentioned something about Colonial when we were talking in private about a week ago. Anything with that?
Okay, yes. I'm definitely gonna be going to more racetracks than just little old Rito. I mean, I've already gone to Turf Paradise, and I'm definitely gonna go past Arizona. That's for sure. Because Arizona is definitely not the biggest horse racing place in the world that brings the greatest class of horses ever. I am probably gonna have some fun in the Indiana and Ohio area. That's where I'm hoping to try and find some gigs there. So I probably will go there at least once to either just one or many Ohio County fairs, depending on if I'm lucky. Some stuff at Horseshoe Indianapolis sounds really fun. And Colonial Downs is a must for me. And I am currently in talks with my advisor to try and get a job there because it's only 2.5 hours from where I live, so I could drive up there in the middle of the week, stay in an Airbnb, and then come back home. And also, it's the host of the Arlington Million, so it's the first time a horse race has been within driving distance of me.
Yeah, I'm kind of spoiled that I live 16 miles from Aqueduct and 23 miles from Belmont. So and 21 miles from Monmouth. So I'm pretty lucky with that sort of thing. you have to drive. Yeah, I mean, living in New York, well, some things have sucked, and I do plan to move out. There are some real advantages.
I mean, I can't complain about that. I wish I grew up being able to drive to all three of those locations, but nope, I had to just watch on the telly. And simply put, everyone knows this, horse racing is completely different when you're actually there.
Oh, it's not even close. To me, it's even better than going to a baseball game. And baseball is completely different and better when you're in person, too. But horse racing, by far, has the biggest difference because you can hear the sounds, you can get up close, you have a beautiful view if you go to a racetrack like a Monmouth or an Aqueduct or a Belmont that has those fantastic sight lines and you bring your binoculars. It's a totally different experience, and when you have money riding on the race, your hands start to shake when you're holding the binoculars and they're coming around the far turn. There's no feeling like it. It's just so different and so awesome. And people that put down horse racing that don't give it its due. I'm not talking about the PETA people. I'm talking about people who say, oh, it's boring, it's animals running around in a circle. Go to the racetrack and bet some money, and then I want to hear how if your opinion shifted.
For sure. Like, I will easily get dazed and, like, really tired sometimes if I watch just, television racing long enough, but I'm never really bored when I'm actually there. And it's also weird when you actually see the horses in person, you're like, wait a minute, these aren't just actors on a screen, these are real breathing animals.
Well, sometimes the jockeys are actors, but we'll save that for another day.
I mean, Gary Stevens was a great actor in the movie Seabiscuit.
I think you know that's not what I meant.
Yeah, yes, I'll fix my perspective. Wink, wink.
Oh, that was fantastic. Anything else you want to talk about, Nathan? We kind of got through yours faster than anybody else.
I think that's just a product of being very straight to the point. I think the only other thing I really want to mention is this YouTube channel. And to put it simply, right now, and I hope for the rest of the year, I have way too many ideas for my own good. Like, I have an entire list just on my notes page, and let's just say it's really long. It's a really long thing, and I'm really hoping to try and push the envelope of what a horse racing content creator can be. And it'll kind of do two things. It won't just be like what I did with other previous YouTube channels about other subjects, where it's purely just a hobby, and I'm just trying to have as much fun with it. This has real, I don't want to say consequences, but real effects on my horse racing career, maybe for the better. When they see these videos, they'll be like, geez, look at this guy's ambition for horse racing. He can really turn it into an art form. Also, this guy could work for an editor or something. So there is tons of stuff that I could go for. I don't know where to like really start with it, but I do have a few possible series that I really want to get off the ground. The big one being a horse racing versus series where I just do simulated horse racing, I guess, duels between some of the most famous racehorses. Like right now, I'm doing the next episode will be Zenyatta versus Rachel Alexandra. I look forward to hearing people send me death threats for picking the wrong horse. Okay, maybe not that far, but I know at least one person's gonna call me an idiot. But oh well, it's part of the game, and you just gave me an extra buck. So that's one series, and the other one is series about the best horses, either in the world or just in the United States, where I focus on each country or state, like the best horse in North Dakota, which does exist. You know, give those little guys a shot, not just the best horse in Kentucky, but all those weird states that actually exist, like the best horse in Utah, or the best horse in Nebraska. They have racehorses, and actually some of them have done all right.
Nathan, you're so good you actually almost completely answered the last thing I was going to tell you to do, which was describe your plans for your YouTube channel and your plans for media for the next year. And you sort of answered that already. Of course, Nathan, his YouTube channel is Sketchy the Horse Guy, as I mentioned at the top. Can people find you anywhere else?
This is, you can find me on Twitter. I don't tweet a whole lot on there, but I do tweet when something important happens to me, especially when it's racing related. And I actually finally got a real username, instead of just Sketchsum. You can find me at Nathan the Caller, no spaces. Nathan, capital C, Caller. Nathan the Caller.
Very good, Nathan. Anything else?
I had something in my head, and I think I lost it. Oh, wait, no, for media. I think media and, like, marketing could also be a possible, extra secondary skill I could try elaborating on in the racing world, like working as as a social media manager or something to do with marketing and horse racing. I'm not sure what. I'm still figuring out what that means, but those kinds of social media skills and very vague and broad marketing skills. I mean, they're not the greatest in the world. I'm not exactly the Wolf of Wall Street, but I think I know at least a little bit about it thanks to this video project stuff, but I'll know a lot more if I possibly get a job in that sort of way. Especially I like Colonial because they suggested probably not an office job because I've yet to take a class there. So to focus on something like media for things like Colonial Downs seems like a good trajectory.
Can they please hire you? Because there's so many examples of horse racing social media managers not knowing shit about horse racing.
I'll try my darndest to keep up the grind on the Colonial Downs Twitter and MySpace page.
Well, I don't think MySpace exists anymore, but that's all right.
That's the joke that a lot of horse racing people, especially like ones that have been around the longest, don't really know much about social media. I mean, our most famous horse racing personnel some of them barely use social media and just use like mobile calling. Then again, they're legends. They don't need Twitter. The last thing they need is Twitter.
I think the last thing anybody needs is Twitter.
So just focus on my YouTube channel and avoid Twitter at all costs. It's a hellhole.
Yeah, that would probably tack on another 3 years to all of our lives if we did that.
Fair enough.
Well, Nathan, it's been a pleasure having you, and that was just a joke. Keep going after your dream of being an announcer, because that's your real dream, and keep it that way. And that's pretty much it. Yep, go follow Nathan. You might even hear him over some track simulcast feed throughout the rest of the year. Very excited for that. And we're also very excited to announce the last guest finally on this very long episode of One Turn Route. Our final guest is coming up next, and he is a living legend on this channel. If you're watching on YouTube, say hi to Sammy Roseman. And here we go. Here is the last, but most certainly not least guest, the OG, Sammy Roseman, everybody. How you doing tonight, Sammy?
We're back to the OG video, just me and you, one-on-one.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. And I'm sure we're going to wind up reliving some old times tonight as much as we're talking about the future.
Yep, for sure.
So, Sammy, as I've asked everybody else, what are your big 2023 racing expectations?
Expectations, like what I want to expect, what I want to succeed, or
everything. What you want to see out of the races? Which horses are you looking forward to see? Which races? Trips going to the racetrack? Things you plan to do on YouTube, even if it's not with me. I understand.
Well, first we gotta have a healthy year for everyone involved in racing. You know, hopefully no drama. That's the big thing. Hopefully no drama happens this year.
You're the first person to bring that up. Thank you for bringing that up.
Anything. Hopefully it's a controversial free year.
Amen. Absolutely.
That's the big thing. You know, there'll be a lot of horse. The horse I was looking forward to is your newly minted 3-year-old Champions tonight, Epicenter. But you know, things didn't go as planned, and he got sustained an injury in the Classic, which really sucked because I thought if he came back, he'd be really, really good this year. But you know, just hopefully it's just a good racing year. You know, the older division doesn't look as good, but I think the 3-year-olds are pretty decent. So hopefully it should be some exciting races, and hopefully you can make some money this year.
Yeah, we definitely hope to make money. Are there any strategies you have ready for this year from a gambling standpoint?
There's always one strategy I have ready to go. Chad Brown, longest shot. Come on now.
Oh, come on. Oh, that's just obvious. There's nothing we haven't heard of there.
Yeah, nothing new.
Nothing new at all for you and me.
Yeah, remember that Monmouth Day in 2020?
I was just thinking about that earlier today and how much fun we had. I told you we were going to start reliving old times, people. I told you.
I remember the horse too. Capital Structure, right?
Capital Structure, and she's still running too.
I remember she ran in a couple great stakes races, right?
Yes, she did. And hopefully this year, maybe she finally rounds into being a higher stakes quality horse.
Oh man, wouldn't you love for her to win as the longest Chad Brown horse in stake? That'd be beautiful.
She certainly, I remember she's shown a propensity to want to go long, like 1 3/8 and stuff like that. She's been good at those longer distances.
What odds was she that day when we had her?
6-1.
For real? Wait, Claire. I don't know how they let a Clarovich 6-1 horse.
Yeah, well, there was another Chad in the race, of course. The other Chad was 5-2. It was 6-1 over 5-2 over the 8-5 favorite, which was neither of the Chads. So we got some real good value there with logical horses too.
We're looking at Capital Structure. She's running fourth and second in greatest stakes races. So she's not even a bad filly, especially for debuting at Chad Brown's, where he basically just puts his horses that aren't good enough for the big tracks at Monmouth. So
Yeah, he usually sends his B horses there to start out with, but man, did he clean up Haskell Day this year? You and me would know.
oh, last minute plan for you to arrive, and cleaned up. Him and Flavian absolutely cleaned up.
Yeah, that was worth going. That was a very
That was
nice
actually a
day.
fun day. It wasn't even too bad.
No, it
Pretty
wasn't
valid.
bad at all.
No.
And the girls, Sammy,
Man,
they were
Jersey
something
girls
else.
are different.
That's the one thing Belmont doesn't have is a lot of women. And wow, they not only did they show up, but a lot of them were very knowledgeable with the horses too.
Tony, man, when you show up to Jersey Shore for that.
Yeah, that was something else. So speaking of going to the racetrack, what trips do you plan on making this year, Sammy? Besides your normal ones to parks?
Also, I have one more expectation. Hopefully, one more, including a goal. Hopefully, by springtime, I could have some horses. My dad can have some horses. Start that up.
That would be freaking sweet.
Hopefully that comes into fruition. But getting back to the topic, some trips. I definitely have to go back up to Saratoga. My dad really likes it up there. It's really, when you go up there, I just find it really. I know you like Belmont, but Saratoga I really like it. The vibe was really good. The food was good, and just the whole environment was good. It was Travers weekend, so it was a little bit different, more crowded than usual. But that you can get up really close to the horses. It's just a great experience, especially in the summer. So that's definitely have to get back up there. Definitely have to get back to Belmont. I haven't been to that place in 4 years. 5 years now. I haven't been back to that place since I was there for Justified Triple Crown. You believe that?
I couldn't believe it, but now thinking back on it, you're absolutely right. I can't believe it's been that long.
I can't believe it's gonna be 5 years since that. Damn.
It's been 5 years since we met each other for the first time.
We've only met each other 2 times since, both at Monmouth Park.
Yeah, well, and we really don't live that far apart. New York and Philly is really not that far.
Yeah, probably. I think we're only about maybe an hour and a half.
It was good traffic, yeah.
Wait, didn't we? No, we didn't. We never met at Aqueduct that one day. Nah, I think I just went up there.
No, I think you went up. I was busy that day. I couldn't go.
I will definitely try head. I think I'm gonna definitely go to some of the Triple Crown races. Hopefully, I go to the I think I'm going to Preakness again, but hopefully I can go to the Derby or the Belmont. Got to go back to one of those. It took less than 2 hours to get back when I was on the way home from Baltimore to South Jersey.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Baltimore's not that far.
It's an easy drive. It was an hour 55 from the track to home, so that's honestly not bad at all.
Me and Nathan were talking. We're so spoiled up here that we're close to all these awesome racetracks.
We have 9 around us. Like I could take 9. The New York tracks beside Saratoga, which is only 3.5 hours. We got Delaware, Parks, Pennassel, Laurel, Pimlico, Monmouth. We are really spoiled, actually.
Yeah, and Colonial, I guess, isn't too far. I'm not sure exactly how far into Virginia Colonial is.
It's pretty deep.
Oh, it is deep. Okay.
I'll tell you how far it is from me, real quick. It's 4 hours, 4 hours from me. A little over 4 hours.
Yeah, it's still a driving thing, though. It's not a super.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's not a super crazy thing. We drove out to Pittsburgh in half a day, me and my friends. So it's not really too bad. Yeah, that sounds like a great plan, and I mentioned to somebody, I forgot who it was earlier in this episode, I want to try and get up to Saratoga this year with a friend's trip, and it needs to be separate from Lake George because Lake George is so great. I can't go at the same time. I'm not going to waste a day in Lake George going to Saratoga, but I want to try and tie it in with when one of you guys are, at least one of you guys are going to be there, if not multiple. So that would be really cool. I mean, if I want to suck it up and go to the Travers, I can. But the way I would do that is simple. I would stay near Lake George, so I'd pay less money, and then I'd park in the general Naira lot really early on Travers morning, so I wouldn't have to pay for parking.
You know what I really like has how you could has how you could park on the Oklahoma track. You get really up close to the training facility.
That's extremely cool. Yeah. If you love watching horses train in the morning, Saratoga is your track. Because the other two New York tracks, I mean, they don't even train at Aqueduct anymore, but Belmont doesn't let you go in the morning at all.
I mean, if I go, I was gonna do that, back to the stories, I was gonna do that, but it was 6 a.m. My dad woke me up and says, I was pretty tired. Day after Travers, you don't want to get up that early, but the night before, I was like, I'm down. Wake up. I was like, yeah, let me go back to sleep.
That's when you're on your adrenaline high. I felt the same thing when I did the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, the 3 days in a row, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 2 years ago. Then I wake up the next morning. I said, oh shit. And then I wake up the morning after. I wake up Belmont Stakes morning, the Saturday, and I said, oh shit, this is horrible.
Just gotta enjoy the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, of course, if you're coming to Belmont, you gotta let me know, and let me know when you're going to Saratoga and to Monmouth, and I'm sure we'll be able to do something.
Actually, I think even that day, I thought it was gonna be really hot, but it was 90. It was what was it? Probably 92, but it did not feel like 92 because we were under shade.
Oh yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
We had a really good view of the race.
Oh yeah, we practically sat right on the finish line.
Yeah, we really did.
And you didn't need to buy reserved seats. We know for next time, unless it's something crazy, you really don't need reserved seats.
It wasn't even that bad. It was what was it, $15?
Oh, it was $20 for admission, but you get the hat. I mean, that hat's probably worth $20. It's a very nice hat. Yeah, I mean, they're charging like $20, $30 for baseball caps now, and that's a very well-made hat. That hat'll last a few years, even if you wear it constantly.
The PA Derby's still free admission?
That's wonderful. I mean, all racetracks should probably be free admission because you're going there to gamble.
Exactly. Well, besides exceptions, the Breeders' Cup could be admission because that's an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wish it was a little bit cheaper. I mean, some of the tickets for that thing are insane.
I think every big race day should have a fee, but it should be to a certain degree. Like Haskell Day, I mean, that could be $20, but I don't understand why on a random Sunday it's $5 to get in, $8 to get in.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
It's $8 now?
I think so. $7.
Oh wow.
But I mean, I mean, it's a smart business decision because they know that you're just gonna go there to bet, and then you want to bet. If you want to bet and get to the racetrack, you're gonna have to pay. But Parks is still doing free admission with the $1.50 programs.
$1.50. Wow, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you got to come up one time.
I really do. I need to go down to Parks.
Yeah, maybe when Cortage's full runs next year, you can come.
Yeah, let me know about that, and if I'm not working, I'm coming down.
Definitely got to throw some money on that horse. No, if people don't know about Cortage, she's just an all-time legend to me.
All-time legend. Yep.
Man, bringing back those memories now. That race was almost 5 years in June or July. I can't remember when it was.
It was the end of June. It was like the end of June. Yeah, It was like two or 3 weeks after the Justifies Belmont.
That's crazy. That's gonna be 5 years soon. Damn. Just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast your life goes when you're doing all these things. And both of us we're in different levels of school, but we're both still in school, and you're getting older, and things happen, and you lose track of time.
This your last year, Andrew?
Yes, it is.
The next year you'll be off to
Yeah,
work.
be off to work. Yes, sir, on a full-time basis.
Yep. Senior year.
Yeah, we got to try to finish strong. Job's not done yet.
Yeah. Yep.
So, anything else, Sammy? Any other horses? Older? I know you mentioned the older horse crop is kind of weak, for lack of a better word. Any turf horses you're looking forward to?
Not really. Isn't I know you're looking forward to Channel Maker.
Yeah, Channel Maker's running in 2 days from when we're recording this. When this episode is up, we're gonna know the result already. I think
What is he, 9 or 10?
I think he should be retired. He's 9. He's 9 years old.
This got to be his last year.
Oh yeah. He can't run in New York next year after this.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, if you have a sound horse, then they should be able to run. I agree. Like It's All Relevant had to make his last start in New York.
There's a horse
in December.
There's a horse that I can't remember the name. He was banned from running at Naira because he was 10 and went down the parks and won. The horse is sound. If he's sound, he should be able to run. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's All Relevant. That's actually been a good horse over the years. He's pretty fast.
Oh, It's All Relevant's great. I love those tough claimers. Even if I can't find it, even if I can't find the races bettable, I still like watching them. Anything else, Sammy?
Nah. We can move on to the next question.
Oh, well, I mean, those weren't most of my main questions, unless you could think of something smarter. But what do you have? Do you have anything planned in terms of doing media or doing YouTube shows beside mine? And if you just want to do mine, what stuff do you want to cover besides the normal Belmont, Triple Crown, and Saratoga stuff?
I think we got to run back the Dubai World Cup video. I remember we haven't done that in a while, but I remember 2017 or 18 we did one. Definitely got to. Think we got to go with the 5-year anniversary to go back to that.
Okay, so we'll do the Dubai World Cup. You heard it here first, people.
Everyone schedule their dates.
Yeah, lock it in.
I remember. I don't know what year it was, but I remember us doing the Dubai World Cup video from a while ago.
I think
that's when we had more time.
It had to be 2018 because I remember 2019 I only had 4 videos and that wasn't one of them.
You only had 4 videos that year?
Yeah, 2019 I only had the Triple Crown and the Cigar Mile. That's it.
Why?
I think I was just too busy, and I think I was doing a lot of streaming then. I was doing more like GTA streams and stuff, which now I still occasionally do again after taking a long break from those.
When is GTA 6 coming out?
I have no clue, man.
They've been saying it's coming out for years.
I know, and they leaked that development that is supposedly 3 years old, so they're supposed to be way further down the line now. I don't know when it's coming out, but everybody's so desperate for it.
I think GTA 5 is a pretty good game.
Oh, it's an excellent game.
I have no complaints.
Yeah, you can't deny that it's a fantastic game. It's just
It
after
is.
a while people get tired of it.
Yeah. They want something new,
Yeah, well, that's completely understandable, especially for a franchise that used to release games a lot closer together. I mean,
I think what we need is a horse racing game.
we do need a horse racing game. I mean, when people are playing, they're playing Gallop Racer, or they're going back to that Breeders' Cup game from years and years ago on PS2. We need a well-known horse racing game, and who knows, maybe it could even promote the sport itself.
The game needs to be where remember one game I played was Starters Order 7, where basically you have a barn and like you enter a horse in real races. Not real life, but you know what I mean. and like I think it should be something like that basic, where you have your own stable, you can claim, real life manage a barn and put real jockeys at real tracks, not real races. Well, real races, but not like not real life races, actual races. But you know what I mean. I think we need something like that.
Yeah, anything that can be at least semi-realistic, I think would be
Yeah,
helpful.
with real life architectures.
Get the real hardcore fans involved with that. You could even possibly teach other people the nuances of the game.
I think it'll need to be released by EA though.
Yeah, EA. I don't even want to get into that.
What other videos do you think we could do, Andrew?
I don't know. I like what Nathan's been doing. That he doesn't just do handicapping, but he does all those other types of videos.
What kind of videos does he do now?
He does the horse racing versus series. He does historical stuff, comparisons, and propositions.
Pushing it up. I mean, it's producing content, so.
Oh, his content gets a lot of action too. Way more than my sorry ass content.
Well, some of your videos, I remember one of your videos from a couple years ago got pretty good views.
Yeah, some of them, and then my top 10 races of last year that blew up big. I don't know why.
Well, how many did he get?
Like over 2,000.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, I was surprised, and I got one dislike on it. I think maybe it's from somebody who doesn't understand. They were just personal races mostly where I made money. It wasn't about like, oh, look at Flightline. Oh, look at Nest winning the Alabama impressively. No, it wasn't about that. It was about me making money.
Hopefully we got some Chad Brown and Channel Maker on it this year.
Okay, we even had Channel Maker last year, even though I didn't make money on his race because he was 6-5, but I still put it on. That was the one race where I didn't make money that I still put on. And we had plenty of Chad Brown on last year's video. So yeah, I'm sure that's going to be continuing for sure.
Oh yeah, Chad Brown, longest shot, easiest angle in the game.
Most certainly, and he doesn't just do it in the cheap races, people. He does it in the big races too.
But sometimes I don't know if all of them are. I think sometimes they're not accidental.
Oh no, they're not all. I completely agree with you. They're not all, but you can tell the way that he positions, the way he tells his jockeys to ride the race, especially when a horse's tactics change severely. Then you know.
You notice whenever Irad rides a horse out, even as a favorite, that horse is coming in there to win. But like if Manny's on the favorite or like someone else, maybe he would have went on the second choice to win, make more money.
I see when Jose rides for Chad a lot, he finishes second. He'll lose if Jose's riding.
Didn't Jose almost lose on technical analysis on the Travers card, right?
I think she won. Yeah, was she running against
She was Rocky. What's her name? Fluffy Socks, right?
Yeah, I think it was Fluffy Socks, and then there was a third one in there too.
The name.
Yeah, me too. Not important. I mean, this has turned into a bullshit segment, but you know what? That's okay because that's what I like doing best with you is just talking and reminiscing.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, anything else you want to say, Sammy, to the fine people out there about your plans for this year?
To have a good year, when I went to all those tracks last year, they were some of the. I went to a lot of, everyone knows, well, and I don't know if everyone knows, but I went to a lot of those big 3-year-old races last year, but it was the same horses over and over again, same results, epicenter, just repeating, tape of repeating, So hopefully this year we got some new I can't speak. Some new horses this year, that mix it up a little bit and not just the same 7, 8, 9, 10 horses and those 4 great ones, that
would be a welcome sign. Yeah, I'm completely with you. Of course, I wish Mo Donegal would have been part of that group throughout the rest of the year. And
I wish I had that horse. That horse he was pretty good.
Yeah, it was like Essential Qualities win last year in the Belmont. It was pretty like he was built for that race. Mo Donegal was built for that race this year, but I felt like he could have done just about anything.
Honestly, the Belmont's becoming one of the easiest races to handicap. All you got to look for is the horse that's going to go a mile and a half. Literally.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the races I see the best every year for sure. Probably the best.
Probably Pletcher will win again this year.
Who knows? But that time will come, and I'm sure we'll be doing a video about it.
Yeah, for sure. I saw they changed up the races though a little bit. I heard some purses were cut.
Yeah, I'm not really too worried about the purse cuts. I don't like particularly. Me and Jack were talking about this at the beginning of this very long episode, people. But Jack and me were talking about the Mother Goose being moved to the fall and the Acorn being lengthened to a mile and a 16th. I feel like Jack's idea was good. Like you cut the Acorn back to 7 furlongs and make it a sprint, and then have the Mother Goose be the longer race. And whether you want it, it's a mile and a 16th like it usually is, or you can make it a mile and an eighth, whatever. But I don't like they pretty much sacrificed the Mother Goose.
The Acorn's a mile and eighth now, right?
It's a mile and a 16th.
I think that's better than. I mean, it's only an extra 16th, but at least it's now technically over a mile race. So
Yeah, I would have just switched the two around and made because you had the two races so close to each other. And what are you doing moving a 3-year-old restricted female race to the fall when you already have the Beldame? And then you're going to make the Beldame weaker than it already is now.
what else did they change?
They changed some little things. They got rid of some races that didn't draw well. They got rid of the race that Channelmaker won last year, unfortunately. And they switched some things around. They moved the poker to Belmont Stakes Day, which I like because I think that'll draw a better field.
Now there's an extra stake race on the Belmont Stakes there. They removed one.
Well, they removed a few. They added 2 and subtracted 3, I think.
I don't know which one did they subtract.
They subtracted the Acorn is the day before now.
That's fine.
The Just a Game is the day before now. And then something else.
I actually like that the day before now. Now on those 2 days, you're gonna have a lot of action.
Oh, the Friday you can't miss now. Friday's gonna be great.
So which ones? I know I read something where honestly the thing is they didn't just cut the purses for no reason. I saw they added it to make these cheaper stake races have some increase in purse, which is actually a good idea.
Yeah, that's why I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm not against that.
I mean, the purse cut wasn't that much. It's only like 50,000.
It's still plenty of money. What they left is still plenty of money for those races.
Yeah. And they didn't cut the Belmont or the Met Mile, right?
No.
Yeah. So which ones did they add?
They added the poker and
what's the poker? Grade 3?
Yeah, I think the poker's a grade 3. Not that I care about grades, as people out there know, but they added the poker and they added the True North, I think.
That's not bad.
The True North used to be Belmont Day for years. It was on Belmont Day.
I think they should have kept the Just a Game though.
Yeah, Just the Game was nice, and then you could add both. The Just the Game and the poker on the same card.
How many grade 1s will there be on that card now? So we got the 3 big ones. Then what else?
The Phipps.
Yeah.
The Jiper.
5. Oh, the Woody Stevens.
Oh yeah, how can I forget the Woody Stevens? Absolutely, Sammy.
I think the schedule's out for this year.
It is out. That's why we were talking about it.
Let's see. Let me check. On the Friday is the Belmont Gold Cup Intercontinental New York and the Acorn. It's a pretty good card. And Saturday we got the Belmont, Brooklyn, Met Mile, Jaipur, Ogden Phipps, Poker, Manhattan, and True North, which is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stake races.
I think they forgot to put the just a game. The just a game is also on Friday.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, they
I
forgot
think
to
they
put
put
that.
it. Yeah, so now it's in New York and the Justice game.
Yeah, so that Friday is now going to have 3 Grade 1 races, and Saturday we'll have 6.
Yeah.
I
And the
don't mind
Tremont,
any of that, really.
the Tremont and Story are now on Sunday.
Yeah, so those will be those are the 2-year-old races. So it kind of makes it a complete. It's a more complete weekend, I guess.
The best one was when they used to have that 3-year-old race on the car. What was it?
Oh, the Easy Goer.
Yeah.
I used to hit that race all the time.
When they used to have that race and they had like what did they have, 9 or 10 state races?
Oh yeah, they used to have 10.
Yeah, including that is best time of the year.
All right, Sammy. Anything else, buddy?
Nah, that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing you plenty of more times
For
throughout the
sure.
rest of the year on
Thank you.
videos. And oh, of course, always, man. Like I said, you are the OG, so it's good to
Yeah.
have you back. And I'm sure we're going to be diving into plenty of stuff. Who knows? You might be on another podcast episode too, as well. Thank you, everybody, for
Yeah.
listening. This was a tremendous thing. It was a tremendously long episode, but I wanted to do something special for this 10th episode and the first one on Spotify. Having these 5 guests here to talk about what they're interested in the upcoming year was a fantastic time. So thank you for listening. Please, if you enjoy it, subscribe to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel, wherever you're watching it. Go check out the website where I've still got that Eclipse article out that I still absolutely stand by. And we'll have more articles as well throughout the year. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for listening. Pay your bills first, and may the odds be ever in your favor.